Okay, good evening, everyone. It's still 6 o'clock. It's toward the end of 6 o'clock, but at 6 o'clock, I'm gonna convene and call to order the City Council special meeting Monday, May 11th, 2020. Before we get started, explain a few things. Obviously, we are doing social distancing in here. Masks are optional. You don't have to wear a mask, but we ask that if you do any movement, we have a podium, and if you do any movement, we have situated chairs and all the things that we have in here to be able to still maintain the distance. And we will be cleaning things after anybody uses a mic, that kind of thing. We also have a couple of things that'll go on that normally I would come down and I'd be getting together with some people, but we're going to do it all in place, and that'll become apparent here in a few minutes. But we do have somebody that did sign up, so we will be using that small table podium, if you will, and not the podium up here. And if you're here, as citizen welcome, you see that we have basically kind of a do not cross area up there as well. And all of us are separated up here. So again, welcome to the special city council meeting. All are present. And I want to also say thank you to everyone for being here under the circumstances. And if you would, please rise and join me for the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you, everyone. So item number 4 is proclamations. We have one proclamation, and it is to commemorate National Police Week. And as I said, normally I would go down there and ask the chief to join me, but I'm asking the chief to stay over there, and I'm going to read the proclamation. Whereas in 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week, established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. And whereas the members of Garden Ridge Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of Garden Ridge, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence or disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas it is fitting and proper that we express our gratitude for the dedicated service and courageous deeds of our law enforcement officers and for the contributions they have made to the security and well-being of all of our citizens. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Larry Thompson, Mayor of Garden Ridge, call upon all citizens of Garden Ridge and upon all patriotic, civil, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 10th through 16th, 2020 as National Police Week. I ask all citizens to join in commemorating police officers past and present who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon the citizens of Garden Ridge to observe May 15th, 2020 as Peace Officers Memorial Day to honor peace officers who, through their courageous deeds, have lost their lives or become disabled in the performance of duty. To date, we have lost 24,137 peace officers. In witness set upon here unto my hand, 11th day of May, 2020, Larry Thompson, Mayor. And again, I would be handing that to the chief, but we'll give it to him later on. Before I hand it over to the chief, interesting and somewhat appropriate that we would be talking about commemorating what the police officers do for us in the midst of what we're in the middle of. A lot of people could stay home. A lot of people could telecommute. A lot of people could put stuff on hold, frankly, whether or not they wanted to, but not our first responders, and particularly not our police officers. Our police officers still had to make sure that we were safe, secure, and frankly, in some cases, in some places, had an even harder job because some people were letting some people out of jail You know, I wouldn't want to have been a police officer in some of those communities, knowing darn well that their job was even harder because of that. But, and then, in the midst of all that, being able to take care of themselves, knowing full well that they were exposed to the public. And, you know, if you ever thought about what a police officer does when they stop somebody, it's a complete unknown. They don't know who's behind the wheel. They don't know if that person's a good guy, bad guy, or something in between. They have no idea. And now, add to that, they have no idea if that person is going to be, has been exposed to COVID-19, and they now have to take that precaution as well. And if you've never thought of it this way, think about also that when they're doing that, they then go home to their families. And so that's the added stress of knowing that, you know, they need to make sure they're not exposed to this and then bringing it home to their families. In fact, so much so that many communities, including ours, are equipped that if they believe they're exposed, we won't send them home. We'll send them to some place where they can quarantine until we can determine whether or not they have been exposed, because we don't want to endanger their families as well. It's bad enough we're endangering them. So yeah, this is an even bigger deal, National Police Week this week, than it has been in many years. Yes, all of us should just kind of stop and think. Yeah, it's their job. I tell the chief that all the time. Nevertheless, they can't telecommute, and they can't put the job on hold, and thank God they don't. So, Chief, thank you. We'll get a report from the chief later on how the department's doing, and I'll give you a preview. They're doing great, we really appreciate all they're doing, have done, and continue to do for our community, and all the police officers and folks in law enforcement in our nation. So thank you very much, and Chief, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir, and we appreciate it. And on behalf of the 24,137 peace officers, we appreciate it. I would like to add to that locally we've done very well, and our CPA has not forgotten us, our Citizens Alumni, and they have started this week with some food deliveries for us in appreciation of National Peace Officer Memorial Week. And they're going to be bringing pizzas and some other stuff up to us. And in the past, we hadn't been accepting any food items, so we just started doing that again. In addition to those numbers that the mayor mentioned, I would like to say that thus far this year, in line of duty deaths for peace officers are up about 26%. Some of that has to do with COVID. We've already lost, from what I can obtain, is 70 officers nationwide to COVID just this year. So the numbers will be quite a bit higher than they have been in the past because of this issue that we're facing now. So we are second as far as Texas goes. We've had, in history, we've had 1,986 officers killed in the line of duty, second only to the state of New York. So we do lose quite a few, and this year we're hoping that we can keep those numbers down, but it's rising rapidly. So thank you for the recognition, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up is item number 5, election items. Ordinance 226-03-2020 passed and was approved March 4, 2020. We had declared unopposed candidates in the May 2nd general election, and so we're going to issue certificates and administer oaths to Mayor Pro Tem John McCaw, City Council Place 1, and Councilman Todd Iverson, City Council Place 4, and Councilwoman Kay Bauer for City Council Place 5. And to let you know, in case you're wondering why we're having a meeting tonight instead of last week, is because of this. We didn't want to have 2 meetings. We had to wait till today, basically, to be able to do this swearing in and the canvassing. So in order to accommodate that, we just deferred last week's meeting to this week. So all the things that we would have done last week, we're doing this week. So it's a special meeting because it's not on the regular day, but that's the reason why we didn't do one last week. In light of the situation, we didn't think it was prudent to have two meetings, so we just decided to have one. So what I'm going to do is ask the individuals, as I get to them, to stand and stay in place, and I'm going to administer the oath. So first of all, place one. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, John McCaw,
I, John McCaw,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of Alderman, Place One,
of the office of Alderman, Place One,
of the city of Garden Ridge, Texas,
of the city of Garden Ridge, Texas,
and will do to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my abilities,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
2 more years. Next up, place 4, Councilman Arvidson. Please raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Todd Arvidson,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of Alderman, Place 4
of the office of Alderman, Place 4
of the city of Garden Ridge, Texas,
of the city of Garden Ridge, Texas,
and will do the best of my ability,
and will do the best of my ability to
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and the laws of the United States
the Constitution and the laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. And finally, Councilwoman Bauer, place 5. Raise your right hand, repeat after me, please. I state your name.
I, Kate Bauer,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of Alderman, Place 5
of the office of Alderman, Place 5. Alderman, Place 5,
Fair enough. Of the city of Garden Ridge, Texas,
of the city of Garden Ridge, Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and the laws of the United States
the Constitution and the laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state.
so help me God. Congratulations. Yeah, a little bit different. Normally, we would invite family, and family could join them as they were doing the oath. We'd be down there, we'd be getting pictures and everything else. We'll have to defer any of that till for a little while still. But nevertheless, want to recognize, in all seriousness, the 3 people that we just swore in that agreed to step up and serve selflessly the community for 2 more years. Selflessly, absolutely. Serve, absolutely. And they were willing to have us refreshen the ink of the target that's on their backs, and appreciate that as well. But nevertheless, look forward to serving with you for the next year. And thank you again for stepping up to serve our community. I appreciate it very much, all 3 of you. Would anyone like to say anything? Starting with 1, 4, 5? Okay. All right. In item number 5, now that we've got that accomplished, the next item is the election of Mayor Pro Tem for a 1-year period expiring May 2021. And I don't know if you all should have gotten this ahead of time and considered it. I can tell you that I've already checked. Councilman McCaw is willing to continue to serve, but that doesn't stop anybody else from saying they want to step up and do it. So any discussion or any motions, I'll entertain any of that now. It's all up to you. I don't vote on this.
I move to approve Councilman McCaw as Mayor Pro Tem 2 additional years.
Okay, so I have a motion from place 5 for Councilman McCaw to be the Mayor Pro Tem for the next year.
Excuse me, yes.
Okay? And I got a second from place 3. Any further discussion or questions? You sure about this? All in favor of Councilwoman McCaw being the mayor pro tem for the next year ending May 2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Congratulations and thank you for stepping up to serve again.
I got a bigger target.
That's right. Okay, the next on item 5 is the designation of authorized signers on bank accounts held by the city of Garden Ridge with First United Bank and Texpool. This is something we have to do every year as well. Currently, for those of you that are keeping track, the current signatories on the 2 accounts are the two financial institutions are myself, our past and now current mayor pro tem, the city administrator, and city secretary. That said, it is up to you, council, if you want anyone else in place of. It's not in stone that it has to be those 4 people. Obviously, there's reasons to do that. But nevertheless, I'm not telling you it has to be them, or it can be them. Again, it's up to you. So again, mayor, mayor pro tem, city administrator, and city secretary is what we have. And if you want that, or if you want something else, please let me know right now. Any motions?
Are they all happy to keep the
Yes.
situation? Okay.
Well, I don't know about the city secretary, but it doesn't matter. So the answer is yes. Can I get a motion from anyone, or any other thoughts or questions?
All right, well, I move that we approve the mayor, Larry Thompson, the mayor pro tem, John McCaw, the city administrator, and the city secretary to be, what's the right verbiage on this? The authorized signers on the bank accounts.
Yes, sir. All right, so I got a motion from place 4 for the mayor, mayor pro tem, city administrator, city secretary. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 3 with the second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor of mayor, mayor pro tem, city administrator, city secretary, authorized signers? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. Now we move on to item number 6, city employee recognitions and employee introductions. I'll turn this over to our city administrator.
Now it's on. Sorry. I'm used to having the mic already on. We received a note from a resident about an incident that he experienced with the Garden Ridge Animal Services and the Garden Ridge Police Department. There was a raccoon trapped in his backyard, and apparently the raccoon was, apparently it was blind and became a little aggressive. And the raccoon had to be shot by one of our police officers who, of course, that's not their favorite duty. And then it was removed by our animal services, Eric Lohman. But the citizen wanted to say that he appreciated the strength it took for the officer to do what she had to do, as well as appreciation for Eric for taking care of the problem. There was another thank you that was received by Chief Eberhard, and it was thanking him and his officers that assisted in escorting a trail ride through the city. And the group was the Kerr Country Alamo Country Kickers Trail Riders. I think they must have been on their way to the rodeo grounds. Then we received a thank you from Councilwoman Place 5, Ms. Bauer, and she wanted to appreciate her thanks to the Public Works for picking up the work from Republic for the dumpster lawn waste disposal during the month of April. And rather than shutting it down, she felt it was a great service that we offered our citizens.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir. Now we have our employee anniversaries. During the month of, Chris Graff, 3 years in the water department. Shannon Del Toro, municipal court clerk, 6 years. Our water manager, Jacob Parsons, 1 year.
And last and certainly not least is Nancy Kane, 18 years with the city of Garden Ridge.
Thanks, everybody, for all their work. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you to Ms. Balby for making sure that they were good pictures this time. When I saw them, I said, wow, those are great pictures. So she's taken it on to make sure that we have a better representation of the fine people that are working in the city, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Next up is item number 7, citizen comment period. Remember, this is the one you have to have signed up for, and you're limited to 3 minutes. Come on up to that other podium. Name and address doesn't count for part of your 3 minutes. I have one person that signed up, Mr. Tony Overman.
Thank you, Mayor.
We didn't turn it up? Keep going.
On?
There you go.
There we go.
You got it.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for just hearing a few things I wanted to say. I tried emailing.
Name and address.
I'm sorry, Tony Overman, 18955 FM 2252. I did try emailing each council member today, and I don't know if it's my computer or what happened, but it didn't show that it went out. So I did email each one of you. I didn't do it till like 3:30 this afternoon. So just in case you didn't get it, which I don't think you did, I did make copies and I gave it to the city secretary. If you wouldn't mind grabbing that after you're finished today. Really, what it's going to say is just what I'm going to share with you very briefly. I have a desire to build a small community here in Garden Ridge of garden homes. And the reason why I desire to do that is because of I think the large number of people that are at retirement age, empty nesters, and houses that they've built when their kids were young or when they were young and it was easier to keep up. They find that it's harder to keep those larger homes up and they want to downsize. And even if it's not a large home to keep up, people as we, and me being one of them, age in place, and you desire a smaller place to take care of. And we don't have that. And so I know that we are losing citizens in this community because we don't have those options for them. There is a piece of land that I have just placed a contract on, and everything's in this material that I'm leaving with you, but it's an 8-acre piece of land. It's not a large community that I want to build, but it would be something along the lines of a Norman Rockwell look. And I actually duplicating something that I saw in Green, Texas, right off of a road called Hahn Street. All this is on the material that I left with you, where the parking is in the back, lampposts, trees, really, really cute. They filled up so quickly, they were so popular that they don't have anything for sale and nothing's available. And that's kind of what I want to bring. Smaller, between the square footage is between like 1,500 to 2,000 square foot maximum. I understand that there's three or four things probably that I will have to go through, and I know I have to go through the process of P&Z and then bringing it to you. But one of them is, where it is right now is right next to the water tank on FM 2252, that 8 acres. And that's, I think it's master zone commercial, so it would have to be zoned residential to do this. The other thing is a sewer line that would need to go in front for properties that are smaller than not as large as 3/4 of an acre to an acre that everything has in Garden Ridge now. And sewer rezoning and you approving garden homes. So I just hope that you'll read that. I really would like to get your feedback because I'm going to close on this. I don't want to close on this land if you're going to vote no. And I have just a 3-month period that I'm trying to get some feedback. I don't expect necessarily the answer, but I would like some feedback. Would appreciate it. So if you wouldn't mind,
Thank you, sir.
letting me know. Thank you.
That's the only person I have signed up, so moving on now to item number 8. Item number 8 is consent agenda. And all this stuff was sent to you, hopefully had a chance to look at it all. And I'll ask, does anyone want to pull any items or motion for the consent agenda to be approved? Any items to be pulled? Looks like none, so get a motion to approve the consent
I
agenda.
move to approve the consent agenda.
I place 1 with a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Place 5 with a second. Any further discussion or questions on the consent agenda? All in favor of approving the entire consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Number 9 on the agenda is staff reports. And I'll tell you that the staff reports will be as normal with one exception. Every one of our department heads will also give you a quick rundown on how things have been going because of COVID. So any activities or precautions or equipment or whatever is appropriate to them, they'll give you a rundown on that and how things are going. So we have a section later on to talk at length about COVID in the city and the state and how it's all intertwined and how it's affecting, and that is on the agenda later on. But while they're speaking, they're going to go ahead and give you their report on anything pertinent to COVID. So first of all, handing it over to our city administrator.
Okay. I did not really have anything else to add to my report, other than to say that all the department heads and their staff have worked very closely together as a team to assure that the continuity of services in the city continued through this COVID-19 health emergency. Each department head will review their department's efforts individually as they review their reports. And the first one I'd like to start with is Karen Ford talking about finance and HR.
Well, actually, let me interrupt and just
Yes, sir.
see if anybody has any questions
Oh,
about
I'm
your
sorry.
report first. So starting on the right side, any questions or comments for the city administrator on her portion of the report, her written portion? Just to give you the opportunity if you do have any questions. Okay, sorry to interrupt, but I just
No,
want to
that's
make sure
all
they
right.
didn't have any questions. Go
Sorry.
ahead.
Ms. Ford.
All right, there's a spreadsheet that you guys should be seeing on your monitors right now, and it's up here. I just wanted to kind of let everybody, bring you up to date on what the financial ramifications has happened with the city of Garden Ridge. So we'll start at the top. It's the losses. And the largest revenue loss we've had at this point is from the community center from canceled events. And that's $8,500. And that is 26.7% of the annual budget, which was $32,000. So kind of a significant hit with that. That is a dollar amount that we will not be able to make back up before the end of the year because those dates are gone. Then we also have the event manager that we've been paying for the lost contracts that she has also, and that's a little under $900. The lost park revenue is $520 to date, and that's 11.6% of its budget, which was $4,500. The garbage and the water are the next two items. We chose not to bill for late fees, and so those are the lost amounts of revenue on those. So the total lost revenue to water in the general fund is $11,587. So then moving down a little farther is the expenditures that we've had to do because of COVID. These were not budgeted for. The first is the public safety COVID expenditures. Those are, I've lumped them separately because those house the ones that I hopefully will be able to go back to FEMA, and we will recoup some of that. It's a 75-25 split with FEMA. And it also has items in here like PPE equipment and gloves that they they won't reimburse everything that we bought, only the items that we used during this period of time. And this whole situation is fluid, so this is going to change day by day. This is just where we are right now. Then the next line item is the non-public safety COVID expenses, and that was so that we could operate it as we normally did. So we had to buy laptops for the staff, some of the staff. We had to do extra postage for sending out notices for court, and then a couple of miscellaneous expenditures. Those will not be able to be recouped through FEMA. But the total expenditures are $10,858. And then if you go down a little lower, you'll see I broke it down between what the general fund has lost and and put out and what the water fund. So citywide, $22,445 to date. We do have one line item. We have an emergency management line item that has a budget of $10,000, so we probably can use some of that to help with this. And then if you go to the next line item, there's lost work hours due to employees that were in quarantine. These are budgeted salaries, so this is not really lost dollars. This is lost work time in dollars, if that makes sense. And then the last thing, I thought this is kind of interesting, I just want to throw out that in the month of March 2020 over 2019 for sales tax, we're actually up 3.3%, which is, I think, a little surprising because they said most of it was going to be down, but I figure everybody's at home, everybody's ordering stuff on the web, and we're doing a little better. So here's the good news. And that's all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Left side, questions for Finance HR?
No, sir.
Sir? Ma'am? Sir? I actually want to add some stuff to this. Today, I was on a phone call with Governor Abbott. Well, also 300 of our closest friends were on the call too. But, and the entire hour was nothing but this. There was nothing else discussed. We didn't talk about cases, COVID cases. We didn't talk about openings and closings. All we talked about was money. It's the CRF, the Corona Relief Fund, part of the CARES Act, $11.24 billion. And the way it's being divvied up is the 5 top cities in the state of Texas. Just it's sort of automatic. They still have to identify the expenses and everything. All of this money has to be identified as being for COVID expenses. But then what ends up happening is then it gets divvied into counties and into cities below 500,000. You have to do it directly with the authorities versus where the big cities don't have to do it. They get the money kind of quick, a little quicker. Nevertheless, all of that aside, one of the reasons I wanted to mention this was that they're emphasizing that we have to keep receipts, that we have to keep track of this stuff, because the way it's going to work is, if we say we've spent X number of dollars, they're going to give us 20% of it immediately. Literally no questions asked initially. And then we're going to have to prove, or they're going to take that money back. And then the rest of it, we will do it based on reimbursement. So we say we've spent this, and they'll and we show them the receipts, kind of thing. And Karen is deep into that, and I mean deep. But the other part that I thought was interesting was that we also had a chance for some questions, and then and the Lieutenant Governor and the Attorney General were also on the call. Oh, and the Speaker of the House. And one of the things that they said, kind of almost as a parting shot, was that law enforcement, they're pushing hard for law enforcement costs to be fully reimbursable. So that number that we have on there for public safety, that set aside there, that's something that that everybody in the leadership of Texas is pushing to be a direct a direct reimbursement. So if nothing else, we might actually be able to get that. Because it's really iffy on some of this other stuff. Karen's been back and forth with the rules and what people's opinions is the situation. But just wanted to point that out, that we, as you would expect, it's a pretty dynamic to bring up. And the reason I wanted to jump in here is that keeping track of this is no small matter. Unless you're an actuary, this is no small matter at all. And Karen has been working triple overtime to deal with HR stuff, regular financial stuff, and then this. And she's been on nearly daily calls with Texas Department of Emergency Management, FEMA people, with the Texas Extension people that have been identified as helping us out with this. I can't overstate how much extra work this has been, because we're taking this so seriously. And oh, by the way, she's been the iron fist with the staff, saying every time you spend any money, you better make darn sure you got the receipts. You better make sure you log this stuff. You're spending time, you log this stuff. And so every week she beats on everybody in the staff about this, or at least I see it every week. She might be doing it even more often. But I want you to know that she's representing and really working hard to make sure that we can get whatever we have coming to us, whatever we deserve. So, Karen, thank you very much.
There's one more thing I'd like to add.
Go ahead.
Currently, right now, we cannot, well, first of all, what the government has put out right now does not reimburse for lost revenue. So this, as of right now, the city is just out the revenue. I know there's something that they're rolling around in Congress now that maybe they'll put something out for small cities. The CARES Act that's out there right now, in order to qualify for the largest portion of that, you have to have lost 5% of your revenue. Doesn't mean they're giving you your revenue back. That's just their measuring quota there. And for us to lose 5% of our revenue, we would have to shell out $146,000 of expenditures. So you can see we're way off from being able to qualify for that. We're okay with the FEMA stuff. And hopefully what they're going to roll out, or they're looking at in Congress, they're looking at something for smaller cities, because we're kind of getting lost in the shuffle. So.
Thank you very much, Karen, and sincerely thank you for staying on this, and all the conference calls and all the webinars and all the other things that you've been doing to make sure you understand this. And she pretty much is the only person, I think, in the city that understands it at this point. So any questions or comments, I'll turn it back to you one more time, being that we said a few more things. Okay, thank you. Ma'am, Becky.
Admin's efforts.
Thank you. So in admin department, most of y'all are well aware of some of the major precautionary measures that we've taken, limiting the access to City Hall to appointment-only basis. But we have maintained regular hours of operation to be available to all the citizens via phone or email. We did establish policies and procedures of a telework program intended to create alternating schedules so we could physically distance within the office, since we are such a small staff in a small area. And then we also put in our specific written protocols for handling mail and packages, which is just a safety measure, does include a quarantine period. And then due to this situation, it has a couple things that have been on our goals list moved up higher in priority, because we realized that making more e-government capabilities is something that is essential during this time and in the future going forward. If we were to run into an instance like this again, or this continue any longer, we've been looking into a couple of features within our current billing system with Tyler Technologies. One of them is for citizens to pay their utility bill over the phone with a credit card. That's been something a lot of citizens have requested. They don't like to pay with a credit card on the internet. it would be the same procedure, they would just pay over the phone. So we're looking into that and we're moving forward with that. It is no cost to the city. It's just a transaction fee to the citizen, just like it would be when you pay online. And the other feature is called Easy Pay, which will allow us to create forms and people can pay their pet registrations, any permits, alarm permits, any renewal, anything like that on our website. Right now we have you can do half of the process, submit the form or an application, then you have to come in or you have to mail your check to pay. But this Easy Pay doesn't cost anything additional to the city, would also allow that whole process to be completed. And then another project that has been basically made a priority during this that we are very close to implementing is, that y'all have heard about many times, is being able to teleconference, video conference in here as well as in our conference room. There's a lot of systems out there that are kind of like an all-in-one for a small conference room like that, that would integrate with our current equipment. So right now I've been talking to our current vendor that did all of our equipment and a couple others just to compare them. I don't want to just jump right in with DVS who did all of this stuff. I just want to compare some of the other companies first. But we are moving forward with all of those because we feel that those are important, especially during this kind of time and in the future. That's all I have.
Sergeant left side, questions or comments for admin?
Just out of curiosity, do you have any idea how many citizens have actually made appointments and come into whichever department?
I would say probably anywhere from 5 to 7-ish total.
Anything else, ma'am? Sir? Sir? Ma'am? Sir? Thank you. Anything else, City Administrator?
The only other item that I would like to report, and it's in relation to the health emergency, is we have not been able to conduct court since February. And the Office of Court Administration is requiring that courts develop a plan of how they are going to social distance and protect the health and safety of the employees as well as the public. So the chief and I and the lieutenant will be working on that in conjunction with our judge, so that can be sent to the state for approval. I just found out about that today, this afternoon, but I wanted to let y'all know. At this point, the earliest that we will be able to conduct court looks like it's going to be in June.
Anything else, ma'am?
No, that's it, sir.
Questions, comments for City Administrator? Sir? Ma'am? Thank you. Moving on now to Police Department. Chief?
Is it on? There we go. Okay. Everything I've got a few things to add to the report that you received. One of those is I went ahead and reinstated CP patrols this week. I looked at it with what the governor's doing now for the distancing. What I've done is put some protocols in place. We have some members of our alumni that do it as husband and wife teams. So I am allowing rides in the CP vehicle as long as they are household members to meet that standard. And then we also quarantine the vehicle for 2 days between rides to make sure that it's quarantined, disinfected, no chance of any spread on that. So that has resumed as of today, was the first one. So I wanted to get them back out there. We've had some folks that are real interested in doing that and wanting to get back out there. And so I thought that would be a good opportunity to get them back out and show folks that we're trying to get back to normal within guidelines as well. So I put that on there. Also, for those that haven't been keeping up with it, I found out the other day the government is actually doing it for folks that want to get out and get something to do. The Thunderbirds will be in the area Wednesday. They are posting a schedule. I don't know the exact times because they're changing things around still a little bit, but go online and check out the Thunderbird schedule because they will be doing some flybys in the area over San Antonio and our area Wednesday afternoon. Might be something for folks to kill some time, get out, take a look, and enjoy the fresh air, weather permitting, of course, that they'll do it. So along with that, you already are aware of what we've been doing pretty much for the COVID. We have a lot of protocols in place where we have restricted the contact with citizens as much as we can. We still have incidences where we have to go out and make contact with folks that call us. We've been able to handle a lot of those reports by phone, and the community's been very receptive to that, and it's worked out very well. In addition to that, we have been keeping a really close eye on the park, and the park is being utilized, the open spaces, and we have not seen any issues thus far at the park with mass gatherings, large groups, commingling of houses, and also that seems to be working pretty well, just so y'all understand what's going on there. Other than that, at this point, unless you have some questions, I mean, we've already talked about the COVID stuff in the past. I can go over it again if you need to know anything else we're doing that we can discuss, and I'm open to any questions you may have.
Starting with the right side, questions for the chief. Go ahead.
Chief, is it mandatory that the citizens on patrol take that specific car, or can they use their own?
No, we because of insurance and liability issues, they need to use the marked
Okay,
unit.
that's fine, okay.
Ma'am? Want to add one more thing, and that is that the officers have been paying a little bit more attention to safety in the neighborhoods. You see that we've put it on the sign a few times as well, with with all the kids home and lots of parents home. A lot of people are playing in the streets and doing a lot more walking and enjoying outside and getting away from their house legitimately by going around the neighborhood. And particularly now, we start having some people that are going back to work, or they're able to run some other errands, and we just need to make sure that everybody stays aware of what they're doing and not get in a hurry. They haven't been to work in a while, and they're not used to when they got to leave or whatever. And we don't want anybody getting hurt out there. So we're all watching, and the officers are paying a little bit more attention. So appreciate that. Thank you. Next up, Public Works.
Good evening. This month, the Stormwater Annual Report was submitted to TCEQ. We also had the dumpsters for yard waste. We counted about 160 cars for the month during the weekly. We've done some wall repairs and some painting in City Hall and PD. Under Oakville, I'm going to defer that later to item 13 under updates. Currently, we have 2 dogs in our kennel. One's waiting to be adopted. That one right there. For the continuity of operations, I'll give you an update. Public Work, along with Water Department, continue cleaning efforts along with social distancing and alternate work schedules. We have our guys working 8-hour shifts throughout the day so they could limit contact with each other and basically give them jobs where it's single person jobs to keep that safety. Public Works has increased our cleaning efforts for all the city facilities and had ordered additional cleaning supplies and automatic soap dispensers and hand sanitizing dispensers. Currently, the city parks and equipment and pavilions have been closed off and signs installed informing the public of the reason for the closures. Additional signs have been made for yard waste, only dumpsters, and signs for social distancing from the workers while they're conducting the work at the dumpsters. While working the alternate schedules, I've been teleworking a couple days out of the week opposite of the water manager. Our focus throughout this has been focusing on our attention on keeping the city staff safe through the cleaning and sanitation efforts, working on projects like removing excess cedar from Paul Davis Park, organizing our shop, and still maintaining the city's infrastructure. That's all I have to report.
Fantastic. Starting over on the left side, questions, comments for Public Works?
Are you?
Some of it's hard to get a hold of. You go try to get a hold of it at Lowe's, the aisles are still clear on the cleaning supplies. Some places online you can get it. We have, there's some vendors that we've used in the past that supply us with chemicals, and they kind of earmark some stuff for us exclusively so we could get first grab at it.
I do want to highlight something because he very, very quietly and very calmly made one simple statement that actually represents a whole lot of work and the savings of, well, tens of thousands of dollars to the city. And that is the very first thing he said when he said the stormwater report. That MS4 program, mandatory EPA program, is something that Mr. Simons took on last year, and now he has to do a report every year. But that report is very involved, and the efforts with public outreach, and if you look at the report, you'll see all the things I'm talking about. But he really did save the city considerable time, effort, and money, and I just wish you could appreciate or could see, and then you would appreciate how much had to go into that and how much he saved us. Again, literally tens of thousands of dollars. So we really appreciate all you did with that, Stephen, as well as, of course, all the other stuff that, and the constant sanitization, cleaning that we're all relying on, and keeping the machine moving. It's kind of the quiet, heroic effort that is going on in frankly, Public Works and Water. But, so thank you. All right. Moving on now to Water.
Evening. Thank you. Good evening. I just want to quickly highlight some of the things on the report. To echo what Stephen was saying with the COVID, I'll jump into that first. We've had some staggering work schedules that both the Public Works and Water Department have teamed up to figure out how that works. And I know we've talked about that in the past. We also are making sure that we have enough PPE for all of our employees to be able to be safe while going through a lot of this stuff. I also want to add that our water system still has not been affected. We're still able to do everything that we need to do, and it's not affecting our water quality by any means. And also, I just want to reiterate the protocol and procedures that have been developed and the three-stage continuity plan that we had. In this area, we were able to stay at stage 1. We have not been had the need to move to stage 2 or stage 3. So I feel that we're very fortunate in that. So that being said, I also want to highlight something on the projects, the workflow management system that has been selected. We had to go through our old workflow management system, which was Field Force Manager, and we had some issues with that, whereas it didn't retain the documentation as long as it needed, and it also didn't give us all the functionality that we need to be able to move forward. So what we did was we went out and looked at a few different systems, with a team. We were able to decipher that the best one for us, and we went ahead and started with a new system called Cartograph. This system is very robust. It does everything we needed to do, and so we were able to move forward with that. So I just want to let you guys know about that. Thank you. Also want to let you know that we also had a theft of service I didn't have in the report. It was off of 3009. It was a contractor that had a SAWS meter, and they put it on our fire hydrant, was using water through it. We were able to retrieve that meter, and when they came up to find out what happened to it, they found out that we had it, so they paid for the water and they got it back. Everything was copacetic, but it was a fun little hour or two. So, and then also lastly, I want to talk about, we have an AMR project. We've had some issues, concerns from customers, I shouldn't say concerns, they've had some questions about the ability to read meters and if they could do it online, and do they have to get another system in order to put on their water so they can go out of town and make sure they don't have breaks and leaks and stuff like that. They want to be able to measure that water. So we've heard that, but we also had some technology. Our technology with Census has been our technology has been outdated, and so they are moving forward. And for us to get back into what we need to, it's going to cost some money to get there. So while we decided to look at that, we also decided to look at our meter and our infrastructure, and is this something we want to continue to do, or do we want to maybe advance in technology? And so there's been a subcommittee with the Water Commission that they've put together, and we've been working hand in hand with us and Tri-Hydro, our engineering company, to find out what the best solution is for our water meter needs in the future. So, and I'm sure that you'll hear more about that later. Other than that, I have nothing else to add.
Okay, thank you. And starting over on the right side, any questions or comments for water? No. Sir, ma'am. Yeah, I want to underline the great work that the team did replacing field force manager and selecting Cartograph. I was really proud of the process that they went through, the analysis, and I know you would be too. It wasn't just a quick, well, this looks pretty good, and it kind of answers the questions. It was a very deliberate process with lots of analysis, lots of questions, and then lots of presenting the analysis in a manner that I think they even learned as they were putting that part together, and came to the conclusion that Cartograph was the way to go. And it will save us a lot of heartache as well as some money. And so that whole team, headed up by Mr. Parsons, did a great job. Next up is library.
Is it off? Good evening. Am I on? I know you've probably been wondering what librarians could possibly be doing if we're not open. We have no books to check out, nothing to stamp, and nobody to hound and say, give us our books back. Well, I just wanted to reassure you that Wendy and I both have worked every day, full days. I told you last time about cleaning all the toys and the dolls and the puzzles very thoroughly, and that didn't take us long. Then we did webinars. This is a great time to not be interrupted. I have to have at least 10 hours of webinars or classes every year to keep accreditation, but Wendy needs it too, just for general knowledge. And we did have a lot of COVID webinars, libraries sharing what they're doing. We did inventory, and it's so nice to not be interrupted. You can just get through that in about a week. And after inventory, we looked at the children's nonfiction section. We thought, what was that Dewey Decimal guy thinking anyway? We might have a manners book in 300 and a manners book in 600. And so I kind of redid them. And it took me 2 solid weeks. But they're redone, and they have all these lovely labels, and they have cute little labels so children know this is the life skills section and this and so forth. We love it, and we hope the children can understand it now. Well, and that caused us to say, these books are just so overlooked and underappreciated that we decided we would set up a display of overlooked and underappreciated books, and we'll be changing that out during the year. Some of the adult books are overlooked as well. then we did that womanly move the furniture type thing, you know, that we like to do. And it just makes it all cozy, and so you have to come see it. We also stopped and thought, you know, the children have missed over 2 months of school this year, so we think summer reading is more important than ever. So we did several scenarios for the summer reading because we don't know what it's going to look like. For the first time ever, I've actually paid some money for a reading program called Reader's Zone, and they will take they can keep up with online logs, awards, and it will just be a help to us. And we can use it during the school year for Bluebonnet Books clubs, there's a program called 1,000 Books to Read Before Kindergarten. You need to start now, Mayor. You know, you can keep up, it will keep up with all of those, and it's really a great program. On April 29th, we started checking out books called Books to Go. We have a curbside service. Now, it's really difficult to get people to read their emails. Usually I get 22-25% open rate, and this time I got a 38% because I figured everybody was really bored and lonely, so they opened their emails. But we still don't have, a lot of people still don't know about Books to Go. But we did have a nice little checkout rate in the 10 days or so since we opened it. Now, as I'm sure you all know, we're going to open the library May 18th because I know you opened your emails. The public is going to be in only 10 to 4 because we need time to clean everything afterward, you know, go through and sterilize, you know, clean all the handles and doors and everything that people might have touched, computers. But Wendy and I will still be there a full day. I ordered an acrylic shield, which I mentioned in my report that I wanted to order. It will be here. This will give extra protection to any volunteers that we might have. You know, I have about, 26, 27 volunteers, but so far only 6 of them feel that they're able to come back for various reasons. But we're excited to be opening up, and we will continue Books to Go, curbside service for those who can't come in. And you've read in my report, I think, about our cleaning protocols. If you have any questions about that, we feel very good about getting those books super clean. We feel safe handling them after we've put them through all of this, and we feel safe handing them to people. Unfortunately, we can't have a whole lot of people in the library at this time, but we will count heads. We will be sure that we're not overcrowded and that they will keep their social distance. Do you have any questions about any of this or any suggestions about how we can do things better?
Questions, comments for the library, starting left side? Ma'am?
One quick question.
Mike?
The curbside service, does that include audiobooks?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I've wondered where you've been.
I was going through my own.
You might have forgotten 1 or 2 chapters, I don't know.
And so, want to add one thing because she's not going to tell you, but if you know, when we do our water bills, we have volunteers to help us stuff the envelopes and put the, you know, all the material, including the water bill, in the envelopes. Well, we haven't had any volunteers up here for a while, so the library staff was our volunteers to help us with that. So we have the library staff coming to help the admin staff to make that happen, and I can tell you the admin staff thinks they're heroes for that, and we really do appreciate that they did it too. So I just want to let you know. That's it for staff reports, but before I move on, I want to tell you that, just so you have the essay, everything you heard And the exchange of all this information is something that all of these department heads have been exchanging on a weekly basis. Since this situation started, we get together in here, all separated like this, and we share with each other what we're doing, what we need, what we're thinking about doing, and discussions if we're trying to make something happen. And I can just tell you that the staff has done a tremendous job, not only doing all the things that you are aware of and that you heard of, but working together and helping each other out and coming up with alternative ideas and alternative methods to get things done. It's been really pretty remarkable and a lot of fun to watch. And you should be proud of them. I am. And the bottom line is all that you heard and all that they're doing has thus far kept all of our people safe, kept the machine turning. We haven't let anything go by the wayside at all. We've actually gotten quite a bit done lately, and at the same time still managed to provide to the citizens everything that they need and more. So just thank all them, and just wanted you all to know that they've been representing in an amazing way. That concludes item 9. Item 10 is city engineer, and Mr. Lackey is here. We'll ask him to come on up.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. For our report tonight, continuing to work on major projects. The 2252 project, continuing to work with TxDOT. They have some preliminary plans, 30% plans, located some potential utilities, Garden Ridge utilities that may be in conflict with their roadway improvements. They are, next step is what's called potholing, where we'll excavate portions of our utilities for the surveyors to go in and survey the exact depths of those lines to determine if there is an actual conflict with their proposed drainage way or other improvements they have proposed. So we've been in communication with the water manager and back to TxDOT, giving them a list and coordinating with them on when they will be doing the survey work and the extent of that. And we don't have a lot. We've eliminated a lot of what their original list was. We're down to a few, and they'll be working on that over the next month or so. Hopefully sometime this summer they'll be more advanced on their plans and get a better feel for when they'll be ready to go out to bid. But we're still monitoring that and working with that on that. Also, we're continuing to work on the 2252 project for wastewater. We have 30% drawings, shared that with water manager, city staff, and continuing to work to bring that project along, answer questions from local developers, and continue to move forward with that. So be happy to answer any questions.
So on the right side, questions or comments for our city engineer? I think I said left and looked right, I don't know, but anyway, you're up.
Okay. Pat, do we have any problems right now with getting easements for the sewer system along 2252?
No, we haven't actually gone out for the easements, but preliminary discussions, it shouldn't be a problem. We have multiple routes that we've looked at and ready to move forward.
Okay, that leads into my next question. Back in January, February, we're projecting about a June completion date. June is next month. How close are we to that?
We don't have plans to bid right now. We're still waiting on some things to fall in place. So we can update that later in executive session where we are schedule-wise.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know
But we're.
I apologize for that. Okay.
But no, we are working with the property owners. Like I said, plans are progressing, and yeah, we can move forward as things fall into place.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't think we were going to do that tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, the conflicts on 2252, thank you for your diligence on that, because if you don't know, Council, the TxDOT had this whole long list of these are all the conflicts. And if we would have just nodded and went, okay, we'll fix them, that would have been a lot, and it would have cost a lot of money. And instead, our engineer says, well, there's a few of these that don't quite jive with reality, and we need to do some negotiating and some investigating. And as you heard Mr. Lackey say, we've already eliminated quite a few of those, and that translates to less work equals less money that we have to put out to do this. So thank you for staying on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Next up is item number 11, City Commission Committee Reports, Recommendations, Possible Actions. First one is Planning and Zoning Commission, Recommendations, Possible Actions. They had one meeting in March since our last regular meeting, and in your package, there is a one-page summary of because Dr. Miller, and to let you know, what we did was we told the commission chairs that if they wanted to represent because of COVID, if they wanted to represent with a piece of paper instead of their smiling faces, by all means, to feel free to do that. So obviously, we have a couple that did that. So you have in your package, and you have it up on the screen from Planning and Zoning. Planning and Zoning is going to be meeting in June and working in earnest to get going with the zoning ordinance, as well as all the things that are around that. Does anybody have any questions or comments? The city administrator and I have been talking to Planning and Zoning chair, so we might be able to answer some of your questions. Starting on the right side, any questions or comments for Planning and Zoning?
Yeah, in reading his report, it was kind of confusing about the zoning map not being the same as our comprehensive land use map. I'll be interested to see what comes out of that. Just a comment.
Yeah, and that's part of the work that they need to do, absolutely. It's a good point, very good point. Anything else over here? Sir, ma'am? Okay. Then item B, Quarry Commission Recommendations, Possible Actions. Again, our Quarry Commission chair is not here. They had one meeting since the last time we had a regular meeting in March. And Chair Holly sent in a couple of lines here, but also there's some actions that need to take place. And you see them on here to accept resignations and to bring someone on. So the first one I'll read to you is Quarry Commission, Place 5. It's all about Place 5. Take action on recommendation to accept the resignation of Commissioner Holloway. Commissioner Holloway is put in his resignation from the Quarry Commission, and I regret that my poor planning, I didn't look up how long he had been on it. I really should know. Do you happen to know? Sorry to put you on the spot. I'm just telling you, I don't know. So he was on there quite a while. And obviously you all know he's been serving on a couple of commissions.
Since,
10 years, 10 plus years is my guess.
So at least a decade, he's been given service to our community on that commission, and publicly thank him for that. I will be thanking him otherwise too, but nevertheless, asking for you to accept his resignation. Can I get a motion to accept it?
move to accept Mr. Holloway's resignation.
Place 3 with a motion to accept.
Second.
Place 2 with a second. Any further discussion or questions? And all in favor of accepting the resignation of Commissioner Holloway, say aye.
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 Any opposed? It is unanimous. And then 1.2 is the action on recommendation for the appointment of Armando Diaz to the Quarry Commission, Place 5, term expiring September 30th, 2021.
Move to accept Mr. Diaz as a replacement for Place 5.
And I got a motion from Place 3 to accept Armando Diaz to Place 5 Quarry Commission. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second from Place 2. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. And again, you have the activity update. That's the second piece of that sheet. You see it up there. They met in March. They got the number of blasts on there, and their next Corps Commission meeting is planned for July 13th. Yeah, absolutely. I'm starting over the
We
right
don't-
side. Any
oh,
questions or, left side, excuse me. Any comments or questions for Corey?
We don't get updates very often from the Quarry Commission, but the blasting since our new plant manager has taken over has been as well, if not better than it was prior to that. And a lot of that credit has to go to our legal representatives for this revised ordinance 34 and how well it's working. So, thank you.
Thank you. Great, I appreciate that. Okay. Okay, moving on to 11C, Water Commission. Have had no meeting since then, but a lot of activity and kind of behind the scenes. And I'm not sure if he's going to tell you about this. He might not, but I'm going to tell you that he sends a lot of notes to his commission to say, we need to work on this, you need to be thinking about this, you can do some research on this, here's where you can find some information on that. So although they haven't been meeting, our chair has really been keeping the seat warm, if you will. So I'll turn it over to Chairman Valdez.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, City Council members. Like Mayor said, we haven't had a meeting since January. The February meeting was canceled because of the election. The early election interfered with that meeting, and then we missed 2 meetings because of just our public health measures. Even though we haven't met, the Water Commission had picked up projects. I mentioned in February that we started our project for 2020. And so even though we have not met, I've been keeping contact with the commissioners and getting updates and sending out updates back out on what they're done. So I'll cover a couple of them, mainly on the infrastructure. Commissioner Harshberger and Commissioner Haldeman met with the city engineers to go over the master water plan and to really see what's going on with that and get an update, and they'll continue to work on that. They met before everything was canceled. All the face-to-face meetings were canceled, so there'll be more to come on that. As Mr. Parsons mentioned, there's 2 commissioners, myself and Commissioner Mueller, working on investigating, an AMR or AMI water meter system. He mentioned that we've had problems with our current meters. It's obsolete. And if anything fails, we'll have to replace it. They won't repair it. We have 40 meters right now that have to be manually read just because the MXU system is not working, so when they drive by, they miss that. But we have a lot of things to do with our current system. We want to maintain it. We've been looking into an advanced metering infrastructure, AMI. That's where you have an antenna and it reads somewhere on the computer. You don't have to worry about driving by. You can get daily readings. You can get hourly readings, minute by minute. And also our customers they have customer portals available, so our customers know what's going on. We'll know about leaks a lot faster, within a day. So we will hopefully eliminate the leak adjustment process if we go to something like this. It's not going to be inexpensive. It's going to be a costly investment, but we have funds available in the projected rate increase already. I think that we'll do it. Anyway, we're going to continue working on that. I hope to have a presentation to the Water Commission at our meeting later this month, and then hopefully bring to council a recommendation for moving forward in June. Our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, May 26th, and I think that's the only commission meeting scheduled for this month. So anyway, we're way behind. We got 6 leak adjustments to go over in our projects and this water meter issue to deal with. So we need to keep that active as long as we can. Any questions? I'll give it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
So if you can't tell, he's chomping at the bit to make things happen. You gotta like that. So starting over on the right side, questions or comments for water?
Yeah, how long have we had the old meter? The one
The current iPearls, the current system?
Yes.
Then we'll have to go back to either Jacob or Tenancy.
6 or 7 years, I think, right?
Yeah, I was thinking, it seems like it just was put in yesterday.
As you get older, that happens. You know.
Oh, yeah, time flies when you're having fun. Does that, is this new meter that we're looking at, I would imagine there are 2 or 3 different companies. Are we looking at one from this old company that will not support the one that?
Yes.
Was
That's
that a
great
great question?
That is a great question.
And we are, because they could actually provide, they can actually just change out you don't have to change out the meter. You just change out the little radio or transmitter or whatever, that you can just change it out. So there's a cost for that. But you still gotta get the antenna, you gotta get everything else. So but we're also looking at not only the initial cost, but also the annual cost. So what's it gonna cost us in 10 years, 20 years? And believe me, there's some differences there to really look at. You know, annual costs are really get you in the long run. So we have to look at everything, not just the initial baseline. What's the cheapest to invest right now? It's not necessarily the best. So, but we're looking at 5 different companies right now. But since we have to go out for public bid, it could be more than that we'd be looking at. So.
Okey-doke, thank you, Jesse.
Ma'am.
Not too long ago, I believe it was you, Mr. Valdez, asked about if I knew, or if Jim and I knew, why we had the size line we do. Did you ever get the answer to that? It predates, I think, most of
It does
us.
predate. Everything we found was that most of our meters are 1 inch. We do have a few 3/4 inch, I understand. I don't know exactly where they are, but we found out that we do have some 3/4 inch. We also have a couple of 1.5 and 2 inch meters. But the majority of our meters are 1 inch. We have been talking to the city engineers to see really what's the optimum size. A 1 inch meter can actually flow 55 gallons a minute, where a 5/8 inch can only flow like 25 gallons a minute. Still, 25 gallons a minute is a lot of water. We're talking about hourly rates, we're talking about for an hour. And so anyway, as far as the history, 1 inch has been here for, I guess, from day one probably. We haven't been able to find anything better than that. But I think we talked to an irrigation, people that design irrigations, and they're looking at 20 gallons per minute just to design an irrigation system, because you have by zones, so it's not like, that 5/8 will be down. But we're still looking into what sizes we're gonna recommend. Of course, the smaller meter is gonna be less expensive, so, but we have to be sure that we satisfy our customers as well. So we'll look at all that, so before we make any decisions.
Look forward to it, thank you.
Yeah, it's really exciting, Council, and just for the record, they're looking at 5 companies, not because they're looking at 5 companies, but they are looking at 5 different companies' operation and offerings, and they're learning a lot, so that all that information that they learn and the way the different systems integrate, operate, et cetera, will help them to be able to then put in a, what I want to call an RFP. Help me out, what's it called in the civilian world? The scope, to put out the scope for the proposal. And so they're really learning a lot. They're becoming the experts in this field, frankly, because they're picking the brains of 5 different representatives, 5 different companies and multiple representatives, that then they can come together and go, okay, so based on all this is what we think we need, this is what we need to put into the scope, all that. So, and you have people with systems experience and engineering experience and obviously water experience all coming together to do this. And so we're in good hands. And I'm really excited. I've spent some time with them and with some of the stuff that they put together so far. And this is really, this is pretty exciting and something that's definitely needed in the city. So
And
much more to follow for you.
And one issue to really think about is cybersecurity, because it is an antenna base, so we're looking at that as well too, as far as what kind of impact that could have on us. So, anyway.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
And we have the Wildlife Management Advisory Commission, did not have a meeting since the last time we met, but we not only have in writing, but we have the chair here, and so Ms. Segovia is going to come on up, and you have the floor. Welcome.
Thank you. Wasn't sure I'd be here tonight, but we haven't had a meeting since, I guess it was January or February. I know we had one canceled because,
No.
Is it on now? All right. Sorry.
There you go.
Okay, so we haven't had a meeting because of the election and the COVID. But just a few things. I know that $10,000 was allocated, back several city council meetings ago from our funds to be used for feral hog management. I don't believe those funds have been used, and if they're going to be used, we had, Paul Sullivan had met with Stephen about several systems to perhaps enhance that. And maybe we would want to do something before the summer. We didn't come up with an official recommendation. We did have a consensus, though, but I know that the money's already been allocated. So I'm just saying y'all might really want to look at that. We're not meeting again till June, but as you know that it's going to be a pretty dry summer, more than likely, and so we'll have probably feral hogs coming in. We might want to be prepared. Also, because of the cancellation of the extravaganza, we actually still delivered our native trees. We were going to give away native trees for the extravaganza for the to improve the diversity in our habitat. And we did deliver them through April, and I hope that people did. I did get some feedback that it was appreciated. Also, we delivered 40 antelope horn milkweed to citizens that wanted milkweed for their homes. And that was on behalf of our Monarch program. So hopefully those will do well. And we also have some that'll go in here at the Gardens of Garden Ridge. I know Jan wanted some of that. We have a planned spot for it. And Linda Potts has some for the park, for Park Lane Park. Our butterfly meadow is doing well, and I just have to give a shout out to Linda Potts, who's been extremely helpful. She also helped plant a couple trees that we had purchased, some Anacacha orchids to go behind the meadow, have a couple more flowering trees that'll go in there too. I'll be putting them in the fall. But, you know, it's changed color a couple times. It went from blue, we had a lot of blue bonnets, to red. And now the field is starting to turn purple with a different kind of wildflower. So, and then also on our next meeting, of course, everybody knows, or not everybody knows, but I'm assuming everyone knows that we didn't do any deer trapping this year. So that's why, unfortunately, we didn't have a place to put our traps. So. We didn't do deer management. So do we have any questions?
Starting over on the right side, questions, comments for wildlife management.
Yeah, what equipment are you looking at to buy or upgrade?
Well, we looked at some that would automatically set off gates, you know, an improvement to the gate system. Right now, the gates that we have for our feral hog traps, they're pretty old and they're not that effective. And these could be triggered electronically, and they'd be just, basically it's what trappers use. And I talked to both Stephen and, I mean, everybody seems to feel that we could still continue to do our own hog trapping. I also talked to one of the police officers. They said they didn't find it an issue if we're doing the trapping, if we call, you know, to dispatch the animals. So.
Cynthia, several months ago, you sent us all the council out a letter and suggesting that maybe we get an outside company to do the deer count this year.
I don't believe I sent a letter to that effect.
What? Have you ever considered that?
No, I mean, we could certainly discuss it at our next meeting.
I think it would be, actually, I was going to agree with you. I think it would be a good idea at this point. I'm just going to throw out a personal observation and based on some other comments that I had from other people, but I think our deer count now, I think the deer population is less than we'd expected, even though we haven't been trapping. And I have the stinking suspicion that it has to do because we're not feeding and we're allowing these deer to disperse. out where they should be instead of congregating in one area. And I'd
Well-
like to see a good, solid deer count to see if we really, how much progress we have made.
Well, that really is an interesting thing. I believe I did say something about maybe working with the new wildlife biologist, but we can certainly speak with him and see if there's any recommendation to that. It is definitely something we could do. In terms of not seeing as many deer, I know our counts were down last year. I know that we were in a time of extreme drought. We were doing the counts at temperatures that exceeded the year before, 10 degrees during the hours that we were out there, which is an incredible difference. But with the last building, I know of the Woods neighborhood over where I live, that's continued to take out habitat for the deer. And the more lawns that are put in, and the more mulch gardens that are put in, and the more plants that are put in that deer can't eat, I mean, they have nothing to eat. They don't eat grass, so, I mean, grass isn't nutritious for them. So we might be having less deer. We're actually,
Well, I'm sorry, I really did, I thought I saw an email from y'all. My system just come back up.
No, but I think that's
after being
an-
down for about 4 months, and
I
I thought I
think-
read something.
yeah, but I think it's an excellent suggestion. I mean, I'll literally bring that up because I think it's,
Of course, it's up to council.
Something that we
I
could
thought it was
do.
a good idea. Pardon?
I think it is something we could do. I mean, we would even have to do it differently this year because of the new problems, you know, one person per car or whatever. I mean, it would be, no, it really would be a little bit different to try to do the deer counts, and I was going to bring that up in our next meeting. So I think that's a suggestion, and we can get on it immediately and talk to the biologist and see, you know, just who would be able to do that and kind of look at some companies and what it costs. We didn't spend the money on trapping, so we certainly have it in our budget.
Yeah, I don't think it would be that expensive.
Right.
And I think we would have money if we kept we are coming into budget season here pretty soon anyhow. So if we
Right.
kept that amount of money for this year, we could certainly, I think, take it out of that.
Yes, thank you. I really do appreciate that.
Sir? Ma'am?
Yes, first of all, I think the meadow is just really a wonderful addition to the park, and I appreciate your efforts and all the master gardeners in Linda and so on. And thanks too for going forward with those trees, because I know we were hoping up to the last minute to have the extravaganza in a timely manner. It'll probably show up again in September, but I probably should have given you Easter candy to give away with those trees. So don't be surprised if they show up at the Christmas party. But thank you for going ahead with that.
No, it was my pleasure, and trying to take care of all those trees in my backyard wouldn't have, they might not have survived. But we can certainly get some more trees, because we actually had a backlog of people that wanted trees. I have some neighbors, they didn't even know about it, and they're like, you didn't give us trees? And so I have some trees started for them, and we can purchase some trees, and
Great,
yeah, so,
thank you.
thank you.
Ma'am, thanks. Thanks for being here, too. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Garden Ridge Parks Committee's next, and representative isn't here, but sent us a report, and you have it on the screen. It was sent to you as well. Actually, before I say that, it was sent to them, wasn't it? Okay, good. Don't want to tell you should have read something that you didn't even get. But nevertheless, the highlights of this, first one, they're just saying what they're doing to keep working, even though they can't be together. I had a long talk with them in the very beginning, the leading edge of this whole COVID thing, because they wanted to still have a meeting, and I said, I don't see any reason why you need to, and they finally, they conceded that they didn't need to, and that's what that comment's all about. Next one is, they are working very closely with Public Works on Oak Wilt and plans to remove some trees. A rather ambitious plan nonetheless, but a plan that is helping us to kind of put the whole thing in context of what we need to do with some trees out at our Paul Davis Park. Next one is the Public Works, as you know and you heard, continue to work on the park, tree trimmings and mulch being pulled out of there, from when we did the park cleanup in January, and they just wanted to report that they appreciate that. Plans for repainting the baseball backstop, installation of water fountains, and you see that we've got 2, and we're looking for more. Updating the sound system. We actually received that stuff right about the time we started social distancing and everything else. So we have the equipment, we just haven't installed it yet. And working to look for how we're going to work the trail. And finally, last, you see down there, portable hand washing, hand sanitizing stations. They did a bunch of research. They consulted with Mr. Steinmetz, and we're working to not only have some, but the beauty of some of them can be portable. So as we do different activities in different places, we can put them there. So we're looking to the future. And I will tell you that we've been talking about that every week, about some of the things that we're doing and some of the things they're procuring to have legs on it, not just for the next month or 2, but to something that we can use for the future. For instance, a portable hand washing or hand sanitizing station now we can put up in the community center during the Christmas tree lighting, that kind of thing. So thinking ahead that we can use this stuff in the future. So that's their report. And then Volunteer Garden Ridge didn't, as you see in the last bullet there, had nothing else to report. Did we have hours for 0? We didn't have 0. We actually didn't have 0. But we didn't have very much, obviously. Obviously, most of that stuff is on hold. Before we leave this number 11, I in my haste to get through your votes and to move on, I neglected to highlight 2 things. One is appreciation for Mr. Diaz stepping up to volunteer to be on commissions, and particularly in his case, the Corey Commission, and also his deep experience in a lot of different things that you have in your package, with being a project leader and working with lots of different areas of procurement and project management and leadership. And I think he brings a lot to the table coming into this, and he's actually expressed his interest in other service to our community through commissions as well. So I just wanted to highlight that, and I shouldn't have glossed over that. Okay, moving on now. Okay, I got a finger snap over here. Go ahead.
Finger snap. Back on parks, 4th of July. Do we know anything yet?
It's going to be on the 4th of July still, yeah.
A little bit more than that.
And joking aside,
Yeah.
it's a topic of conversation for us every week. And what we've come up with is there's not a lot we can do other than to move forward. So since you asked, talk to Parks Committee about 4th of July, and they asked me, and I told them that absent any clairvoyance, I think what we should do is move to plan on having a 4th of July celebration. And then when we figure out where we are, what we have to scale back, what we have to do with any distancing or cleaning or whatever, but I think it would be a mistake to go, well, it probably won't happen, and then all of a sudden go, well, things have really changed and we can do this, and then we're behind. I told them don't go out and spend a lot of money. Let's talk about money, but when it comes to planning and all that, we can definitely do that. The good news is a lot of the stuff that we can do is stuff about the park that's lasting well beyond 4th of July anyway. So we've got that going for us as well. So yeah, I know I'm well aware that there's some cities in the Northeast that have already canceled any 4th of July celebrations. I don't know about any around here so far. The ones that I've checked on have not. But in the next month, the next month will tell. And we'll see where we are. If we may have a parade and, kind of a distant kind of thing. It may not be. We will celebrate the 4th of July
Right,
somehow.
right.
And as we move forward and we see how things unfold over the next month, we'll have a better answer. It's a very good question. I didn't want to make light of it by saying what I said, but really, it is a good question. It's something that we, in fact, talked about today.
Okay.
So does that
Yep,
give you?
I'm good.
Yeah. Snap your finger.
Back to
Anything
Mr.
else? Go
Back to Mr. Diaz. He's not only well qualified, but he's a very extremely nice person to deal with.
Yeah.
He's got a good temperament, just a happy person to be around. I would like to say something about Mr. Holloway.
Too bad that's not a qualification to be on council.
Mr. Holloway, this is a commercial for him. That man has dedicated most of his retirement life to the city of Garden Ridge. It seems like there is nothing he doesn't touch or is not part of, and I appreciate what he does so much. I don't know how he does it at his age, because he's got a lot of energy. In fact, he was out cutting wood this last weekend, I understand.
Yeah, and a lot of it is stuff you never know he does. Things with the Lions, he heads up a bunch of programs and projects that some of us Lions get involved with. He really, yeah, you can't say enough good about him. I echo that. Anything else before we move on? Moving on now to item number 12. Yes, maybe I just put my glasses on. 12. Approvals, authorizations. This is the COVID-19 portion that I promised you. So I do want to go through a few things, keeping in mind that this meeting is being streamed, and I hope that it is also a source of information for citizens as well as the primary intent, which is a source of information for council. But just to kind of lay it out and review some status and some pertinence to Garden Ridge as pertaining to the COVID-19 situation. In the state, you all know that we still are under the emergency order that happened in April. It was extended, and we expect it'll continue to be extended. There's no reason not to, and frankly, relief money and CARES Act and all that other stuff kind of gets tied to that. And recall that as long as the state is under that state of emergency, that our community, our city of Garden Ridge is also, because we tied our declaration to the state. So we will be in that for the foreseeable future, I would expect. The latest executive order, GA-21, and so, by the way, remember that the governor deliberately allowed the stay home, stay safe, that he didn't name that, but that people got to know it as that he deliberately allowed that to expire. And his guidance in what was sort of loosely called GA-21, he called it that, but we couldn't find it where it was actually written as GA-21. But GA-21 is the May 1st, when restaurants, theaters, and retail opening up at 25%. Recall that his plan next, what he put into the plan, it's a big pamphlet that you can get online, and it's actually good reading to talk about. That's phase one. Phase two, starting on May 18th with gyms opening up, and then also the restaurants, theaters, and retails going to 50%. But in the interim, because they continue to look at this, effective the 8th, they also open up nail and hair salons and all that stuff. So we're starting to move forward with this, and the plan is that he and the experts and the staff and the state keep looking at how things are going, and as long as we're still moving in the right direction, the same and expected direction, then you can expect on the 18th more things are going to happen. And frankly, we in this city are using the 18th and the discovery of the analysis of the data and all that other stuff to make some more decisions. You heard the library opening on the 18th. We're also looking at opening up facilities in our parks on the 18th, assuming all this stuff is still falling in place. So we in the city are using that analysis and that situation to continue going in that direction. Now, the county, they wanted to emphasize what was not called a stay home, stay safe by calling it a stay home, stay safe. That was SK01, but it did expire when the governor's notice expired. And very importantly, if you're not paying attention, the governor explicitly said, his words on screen saying that no local jurisdiction, county or city, could supersede what he was saying. So, and that's in a couple of cases. One is the opening of the retail, theater, all that stuff, and as it continues, he's going to continue doing that, saying that localities cannot mandate things are closed and supersede what he's saying. Also, localities, and San Antonio has tried and realized they couldn't do it. He has deliberately said that it's not mandatory to wear a mask. It's not because he doesn't think you should wear a mask. He's wearing a mask when he's out and about. But he has said that, and this is, I've gotten this because about every other week, like I said, me, him, and 300 of our friends are on a call. All the mayors and judges are on a call with him, and he did discuss this and say that he's concerned, and I applaud this. He's concerned about making laws that then are difficult to enforce and present new challenges and problems to everybody that's expected to enforce those laws. And so they did say, and they have emphasized, that individual businesses, private businesses, can feel free to say, you can't come into my business without a mask. That's completely legal. But we can't tell somebody that they can't come into this city hall or any other public building in Texas and have to wear a mask. We can't mandate that because we can't supersede his order. So there's a few things like that. Now, also keep in mind that in light of that, still, CDC guidelines of household groups and 6 foot separation and all that stuff still applies, and it will apply for the foreseeable future. So the county is still emphasizing that and going along with that as well. Also countywide, just if you're also paying attention, we have the report that comes out, and you can access it pretty quickly and pretty easily. And then talking about our city, we have the local disaster declaration, the amendment that I published for the use of RVs, and I told you all about that. And we are strongly recommending for the CDC guidelines and all of those things, household groups, masks, and all that kind of thing. We have 3 positives that we've had in the city for quite a while, and I would expect, and I would hope that soon we'll see some of those go into the recovery category. If you haven't been able to talk to somebody about this, I have, and I can tell you the criterion. It's interesting. The criterion for being on the positive is just a positive test. You don't even have to be sick. You can just have a positive test. The criterion for being recovered is considerably more difficult. So there are probably a lot of people that are in the positive category that have not been put in the recovered category yet. And I don't know, but I'm hoping that we'll see that even locally. 3 cases, 2 of them in one household. All 3 of them are home quarantined. And I told you in message, one-way message, that we are very deliberate about. Judge doesn't know who they are. I don't know who they are. City administrator doesn't know who they are. I don't even want to know. We avoid being able to identify that. Now, that said, it's in the system. If any first responder goes anywhere near those homes, they will be told right away. And we actually have come across that already, so we know that works. When that first came out, I spent a lot of time talking to the county folks because I wanted to be absolutely assured that if we weren't going to be told, which I wasn't advocating that I wanted to know, but if we weren't going to be told and we weren't going to overtly tell law enforcement that law enforcement, they would have their backs and there was no way that they would walk into a home that was a COVID home. Obviously, there's another check and balance, and as the people that are in those homes should be saying something about that if somebody tries to enter as well. But, you want to have more than, you want to have checks and balances. You don't want to just have one hope strategy. Let's see, I told you about, we're looking at the parks, the library, our facilities, all that stuff. We've been keeping up on if there's been a little bit of gaps. You know that for a while, trash, you could only do one lawn cleanup, yard cleanup bag. It was an issue with capacity with Republic. We're past that. We're back to normal operations with that. The stopgap for that was to have the Monday, Wednesday, Friday 10 to 2. You heard that we had a lot of takers on that. It was very successful. A lot of people really appreciated that as well. And now this is the month. In fact, for a short time, Republic was asking if we could not have the dumpsters on the weekends in May, and we pushed back pretty hard and said, no, we've been telling people that they couldn't bring anything but lawn trash during that Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing, and we need to have the dumpsters. But they figured it out, so we have the dumpsters for the first 4 weekends in May per normal. And so that's going well. Trash is going well, and keeping things clean. A couple other things are going on that are related to all the COVID stuff. Give you a heads up that there's going to be I'm going to use the words that they used on their initial flyer. That is not the flyer, it's only their initial flyer. And it's a drive-by parade. It's going to be conducted by the coach and some other folks from our new Davenport High School. And they're going to be going through some neighborhoods, and it's going to be just a drive-by parade. They're going to be going through 2 neighborhoods in New Braunfels. Keep in mind that students from New Braunfels are, in some of the outlying areas of New Braunfels will be going to this high school, as well as some county folks, as well as some of our city folks. So 2 neighborhoods in New Braunfels, here in Garden Ridge, and also in a neighborhood in the county. I talked to the incoming principal of Davenport, and he's on top of this. We've also communicated with ISD superintendent, and we're good to go with this. They are going to put out another flyer that's going to do more emphasis of social distancing, because there was nothing on here. And frankly, what happened was, when I first saw this, I was concerned that it said build a pack, meet your coaches, grab some gear, and it kind of smacked of, hey, we're going to have these gatherings, and we don't want to do that. But the ISD has no intention of having it be any gatherings, neither does the high school, and so they're going to modify this. When we get the new one, we will make sure you get a copy of it, okay? Haven't gotten it yet. It's not going to happen until the 17th, so they got some time, and I have all the confidence in the world that they're going to tweak this and make it overtly obvious to people that we're still in the middle of a COVID situation. But we'll make sure that you all get a copy of this when we get it, okay? So anybody have any comments or questions on that? Because I know some other people have been involved in one way or another.
Yes, and I guess this is probably the right time for me to come up on that. I spoke actually quite great length with Coach Zimmer Hansel, Matt Deloach, the incoming principal, and Andrew Kim about this very issue. They've already put some stuff out on social media, right down to the Wolf mascot wearing a mask for social distancing. They informed me that they would provide more information out into the population of parents and everything else. And I've seen a little bit of that moving through Facebook and those kind of things. The coaches are supposedly all going to be wearing masks. They're not getting out of their cars. They've been informing parents that they need to stay on their own property or stay in their own vehicle if they're not on their own property when this thing drives through. And it's just a drive-through. They're going to throw a couple of, rubber squishy footballs out the windows or something, and maybe a couple of T-shirts, and that's about it. They'll be in the city for under, probably 35, 40 minutes at the max. But it's just a way to try to drum up some excitement for the upcoming school year, assuming it starts on time, and all those kind of things. And I've gotten a lot of reassurances from them that they will comply with the rules that are in place when they do this drive-through. And I was very glad to hear that Principal Deloach, sounds like he called you up, or did you get a hold of him? Good.
He called me.
Okay. I'd actually asked him to do that. I think we're in good shape. In talking about this, I talked with Chief Eberhard and with the city administrator Nancy about it and what some of the concerns were from the city. And I'm happy to continue working on it, or if it's going to come to the mayor's office and work that direction, that's fine with me as well, however we want to do it.
Okay. And I didn't tell you what the route is because I figured wait until we got a final word on it. I didn't want to tell you one thing and then they decide. So I figured when we get the final word on this, we'll make sure y'all get it for sure. And like I said, we got a few weeks on this still. So Anybody have any questions or anything to add on this?
Yes, sir. You said the 17th. I assume you mean May? Or
Yes,
that's next Sunday?
yes.
Okay. And this is not unlike what I had proposed, you and I had discussed, but apparently it's being allowed now.
Yeah. It is not unlike, but it is not the same. And it is absolutely not the same, and it is much more localized. And we're relying on them to ensure that everybody that's involved, all the wolves that get involved with this, are abiding by the CDC rules. Point well taken, but it is what it is. Anything else? Okay, couple other things about COVID I want to talk about. Today, hopefully you saw it on social media, you saw it on our sign. There was some drive-up testing done in our community center. The way this unfolded is the state of Texas, the health folks partnered with the Texas Guard and said, we're going to bring one drive-up test operation to each county in the entire state of Texas. 2 weeks ago, they did that at Canyon High School for Comal County. They had roughly 80 people, depending on who's counting, give or take a person, that came up and did the testing. And so the county did our one. Friday morning, this past Friday morning, Jeff Kelly called, actually wrote to me and asked me to call him, but we talked, and he said, we have a pop-up. One of the counties that had it scheduled can't do it, and the Texas Guard and the Department of Health said, hey, Comal County, you did a great job, you want to do another one. Now, rewind to the beginning of all this back a couple months ago. When it all first started, I made the comment to Jeff Kelly. I said, hey, I hear rumblings of they're looking at figuring out how to do drive-up testing. Nobody had even done it yet. Remember, Texas and San Antonio, in fact, was one of the first in the nation to do it. I said, I hear them rumbling about that. If we ever do it up here, consider that we have a great facility for it, knowing full well that we were shutting down our community center. It wasn't going to interfere with anything. But the community center lends itself very well to doing this because we have the drive-up portico. You know, you don't have to worry about the weather, but yet it's still outside. You have the indoor facility that for the support folks. It's, you know, we don't have any problem with traffic, and the school isn't operating, so it all seemed to be pretty good. And so I told him that a few months ago. Well, Friday morning, he said, remember you told me about that, and we think this would be a great opportunity to do this. And I said, yeah, I agree. Worked with our staff to work out security, flow, facility, and put it together, and they put it together. And so this morning, the emergency manager came out Friday afternoon and did a walkthrough with our folks to make sure, Chief made sure we had the requisite security up there, and Public Works made sure that the place was cleaned ahead of time, and I know that they did a walkthrough this afternoon and making sure it's cleaned afterwards. They didn't have any bio-waste. All the bio-waste they have, which is basically what they're wearing when they're doing the testing and stuff, all went into red bags that they took with them. So they didn't leave anything behind other than some pizza boxes, from what I understand. I went up there today and walked around and said hello to them and checked on the operation and watched a few people get tested. Has anybody here been tested for COVID? You have? With the swab up the nose? Yeah, both noses, both nostrils, yeah. Not both noses, one nose, two nostrils. Well, then you can speak to this better than me, but I watched a few people and it did not look pleasant. It didn't look pleasant at all. A few of them, their eyes were watering and stuff afterwards. But nevertheless, it was really important that our staff and our city stepped up, came and made this happen. The last report I got from Jeff, it was 80-something. That's an unofficial number. I'll probably find out tomorrow on the call with the mayors and the county judge what the real number is, and I'll make sure you all are aware of that. But so I thought it was important that everybody know that Garden Ridge is here. Garden Ridge is part of this. And in fact, I told them that there may be another pop-up, and if there is, that we'd be more than happy to take a look at it and see if we can accommodate it. So great job by staff, and you have something. Oh, you have some feedback. Yes, go ahead, please.
I received a call this afternoon from a resident who had an appointment to go to the testing. He showed up a little early. They took him early, and so he was home by the time he was supposed to be there for his appointment. He was very impressed, said it was a very smooth operation, very informative signage. He said it was a very pleasant experience, except the swabbing. But he thought it was great that the city had the exposure of having something like this in our city. He was very appreciative that it was so convenient and it was right here in the city.
Yeah, and again, the only tiny downside is we didn't know about it very early, since it was a pop-up. But to have 80 people go to a test that, by the way, was capped at 100. They couldn't do more than 100. So to have 80 people show up, we put it, like I said, sign, Facebook, and other social media. But I appreciate staff making sure this happened in the fashion it did. And the county really appreciated it as well. Any questions or comments on that? Okay. Also, I want to tell you about something that the information is just starting to come out. If you're addicted to the information about this, as I am a little bit, you know that part of this whole issue is not knowing what the denominator in this equation is, not knowing how many people have had it and either didn't know or were a little sick and just stayed home and then they got better, and so either completely asymptomatic or barely symptomatic, as well as maybe somebody that really was full up sick and they still didn't report it and they just got over it. But now, nonetheless, the denominator of how many people have had this can be filled out more through antibody testing, if you've been paying attention to the information out there. So the county is doing antibody testing now. And it just started last week. They've done a couple hundred already. They found a handful of people that had it, that either suspected they had it or weren't sure. But it's been a small number. But nonetheless, it's a good thing that we're doing it. So the CPL, Clinical Pathology Laboratories, is actually doing the tests. Comal County, you call Comal County at their 221-1150 number. You make an appointment, and you have to have an appointment. You show up at Comal County facility. It's not at the laboratory. And CPL, the laboratory, was given grant money, and so this isn't going to cost anything. I'm hesitating on this because they still want your insurance information. You ever been to the doctor when the doctor said it wasn't going to cost you anything? You give me your insurance information, and a month later you get a bill in the mail? And I'm going through one of those right now, in fact. But the grant money is going to cover people that are uninsured and any dues remaining for those who are insured. So in other words, they're saying that either your insurance or the grant is going to pay for this. Testing is Monday, Wednesdays, from 9 to 5, and Thursday mornings. Test takes roughly 15 to 20 minutes, and you call that number, the 830-221-1150. We'll put this on our website. And if you go, right before all this was in vogue, I was sick, and I'm wondering if that's what it was. Or, I was exposed to somebody that had it, but I didn't have any symptoms. Or you're just curious. Because frankly, the more people that go up there and do this, the better. I really do think that the more numbers we get, the more we have a picture of what's been going on. So just wanted to give you some heads up on that, and you're going to see that show up on our online information as well, because we want our citizens to know about that. Does anybody have any comments or questions about that testing?
Yes, both Jim and myself went last week to the county, and it was a very easy process. I would just recommend being a little early, because there is, as you might imagine, paperwork, but they're very nice, and it's very efficient, and it's within the building. It's not a drive-up. It's go inside, and they draw the blood. I would recommend it. It's very
Cool.
easy to get an appointment.
Thanks. I'm glad you did it. Anybody else have any comments or questions on that? Ma'am?
Just curious, did you get the results back? How timely was that?
No, I didn't get them back yet. No, they said on the phone when you make the appointment, they said up to 48 hours, but when I was there, they said up to 72, but we went on a Thursday. We didn't know if we'd get results on Saturday. As of now, I don't have results one way or the other. On the swab, I did get an email with a printed out, that I could print out a confirmation. On that day, when you had it done, April 23rd, you were not sick. So I don't have results yet.
Cool. Thanks for that info. Thanks for that question. Anything else on this topic? Okay. Another thing I want to talk about is that a lot of folks and businesses have been reaching out and donating to the city PPE, sanitizer, those kinds of things. And want to mention a few. The Combined Law Enforcement Association of Texas, they had a representative come here and deliver a bunch of N95 masks to our PD, and when we really needed them. Now more and more people have them, but that was really a timely donation, and we needed that. Axion, parent company for Taser, brought us some hand sanitizer and some face masks. Three Dragons Printing has been doing some discounted printing. Is that the one that you had? Yeah, it's a hard mask that has an insert to it. I've been doing some good discounts on that. 100 Club of Comal County and Contingency Consulting brought us some hand sanitizer as well. We had a resident come up here, and it was one of those things that we see this person park in the parking lot and come trundling up here, and we go, doesn't this guy know we're closed? Well, he knew we were closed, but he was bringing a donation of hand sanitizer and medical-grade sanitizing wipes, something that at the time was well received by us. We needed it. It helped, and it was very kind of that person to do that. We appreciate that. Comal County Emergency Management has been making sure that we've been getting some PPE, some gloves, some masks. One day I wrote to our emergency manager and I said, hey, if you want to be a hero, because I had just gotten from the chief that we were down to just a couple of masks per officer. I said, if you want to be a hero, get us some masks. And the next day, chief was up there picking up masks. And that's all not about me calling him, it's about TDM cooperating with our county and our county emergency manager saying, yeah, we need to get something for these guys. So so our emergency management folks have been really doing a great job in the county as well. Hanson donated a whole bunch of hand sanitizer and 25 Tyvek suits to the tune of over $1,500 worth of stuff. And that's pretty cool. And then SAWS also donated a bunch of cloth masks, 50 cloth masks as well. And there's probably others that I don't know about, and if there is, and I don't know about it, I apologize for not doing it, but this is something I wanted to make sure council was aware that people are reaching out and they're trying to help. And you rewind about a month or so ago, and we were getting pretty low on a lot of that stuff, and these people were donating something that was worth a lot more than the retail cost, if you will, at that point. And so we really appreciate them, and we appreciate everybody that has reached out to do something or to help the city and come together. It's been gratifying. Last on the COVID thing, before I ask for y'all's input, and if there's anything that you think needs to be done, is I just want to say that, again, that staff has really done an amazing job of ensuring that if any one person on our staff might have been exposed, we took care of that right away, and it happened a few times where we had, well, maybe. They never hesitated. They also have made sure that through both separation, physical separation, as well as chronological separation of work schedules to limit that exposure and greatly reduce the possibility. Because, hey, let's face it, when you have a really small staff and they're all together, one person gets sick, now we all go into quarantine and everything stops. And so early on, we talked about how we can't afford to have that happen. And to prevent that from happening, we needed to be able to say, oh, you tested positive? Have you been within 6 feet of anybody around here? And the answer is no. And that's the way we have treated this. That's the way your staff has treated this. And it's been, so thus far, very effective. We also are very aware that we need to be tuned into, are we getting war weary about this? And we talked a lot about that as well. But the staff and our leadership sitting in front of you here has done a tremendous job of making sure that the wheels kept turning and that they stayed safe, their people stayed safe, and the citizens stayed safe. And so that's my wrap up for COVID. I want to open it up to y'all if you have any questions, you have any comments, or if there's something you think we ought to be doing that we're not doing. Also, I guess I meant to say this, I forgot. I've been giving you the one-way updates. I hope you've been watching them. You know, checked, it's legal to do it. You're not coming back to me, but I've gotten zero feedback. So if there's something I'm not telling you, you need to know, now would be a good time to tell me. Because if something really changes, I'm going to continue to do those updates for you, but I'm trying not to do them just because it's Monday and it's time to do an update, and that's why they haven't been regular. It's been more based on if something's happened that I thought you needed to know about. Oh, damn it, there's one more thing. I forgot. Sorry. Because we actually have something to show for this, don't we? Oh, no, it's later on. It's later on. Forget it. It's later on. It's later on. Yeah, just kidding. Never mind. Disregard what the absent-minded mayor said. Anyway, starting over on the right side, again, any comments, questions, concerns, or anything you have to say about the situation for COVID?
Well, not really, although you did bring up something that was real interesting, that the school system's going to do, the drive-by parade. I went to a drive-by birthday party for my 9-year-old granddaughter, and it was much more fun than a regular old party for a 9-year-old kid. I mean, they probably had 30 cars go by honking, they had signs, they had everything. Quite frankly, it's a great idea, because they are a lot more fun than a regular party. And second of all, I've noticed the masks are getting designer masks, SpongeBob, you know, ones like that. I'm waiting for the Gucci mask to come out. Of course, it doesn't matter to me. Carmen gets me muzzles. But other than that, that's all I got.
Just a thank you to staff and the mayor for all your hard work. And since John McCaw brought up masks, mine has corgis on it.
No, I just was going to thank you for keeping us all involved on a semi-weekly or whatever basis, because it did help.
I think we're doing good, so let's stay the course and we'll see how this thing plays out. But I think the staff's doing good. I'm going to pat you on the back for a minute here, Larry, because you're doing a nice job handling all this with all of it. So keep it up, keep the updates coming. I'm impressed with how well the city is handling all of this. I'll be very frank with it, because I've been to some other locations that aren't handling it nearly this well.
Perhaps we could have a drive-by for the unnamed city secretary and assistant city secretary of birthdays this month.
We are not aware of the city secretary having a birthday this month, just for the record. Anything else? Okay, so number 2 was if there's any action needs to be taken. So I do want to make sure that, you know, you all said we're doing good, but any action that you feel needs to be taken, sweep one more time. No. Okay, good. Moving on to number 13, updates, city administrator.
I'm on. Okay. Due to the COVID situation, we were scheduled to have a shred event on May the 9th, sponsored by the Suzanne Kuntz Real Estate Team. They very graciously agreed to postpone that event. It will be rescheduled as we see how things progress. The DEA Rexall, or Drug Take Back Day was also postponed. We will be participating in that when DEA schedules another event. I hope to have some information for you concerning household hazardous waste at our June meeting. So that is basically my report on the shred event, household hazardous waste, and the drug disposal programs.
And you recall, we're working on that, and we'll keep you updated on how we're gonna make all that happen when we
Yes.
coordinate. But talking to county and everything right now on that is just a non-starter, obviously. Any questions, comments for city administrator on that? Next up is 13B, Mr. Steinmetz, Oakville.
I got in contact with Robert Edmondson from the Texas Forestry Service. He will be back out toward the end of May to review the trees over at the park and the surrounding neighborhood that's close by. He's under COVID-19 restrictions through his agency, so he has to do some social distancing and whatnot that involved. Plus, he said there is some caterpillar activity in some oak trees that will also throw off what he might be able to determine as oak wilt or not. I did look at a tree today in one of the residents adjacent to the park, and it did look like they had some activity on it, so waiting a little bit longer to have the trench route determined was probably a good idea, because if we had it done earlier, it might have thrown off the whole spectrum right there, and we might have undershot where we needed to put it. That's all I have on oak wilt.
So yeah, we're in the throes of this, and we're gonna have to do some work. And our Public Works, and our Parks Committee have been working on this as well, but we're in good hands. And I don't even know how many more places. I mean, I've gotten calls, hey, I think I might have oak wilt, and, and I say, okay, well, Stephen will be out there, and, I don't want to overpromise. Then the next week, and he'll take a look at it, and within an hour, he's out there looking at it. But, so he's staying on top of this, and we owe him for how much he's staying on top of this. Any questions or comments for Stephen on oak wilt?
Stephen, if it looks like it's going to be a problem, what are the options of actually getting ourselves a trencher? Obviously, if we hire it done all the time, it's going to be extremely expensive if we're using it all the time. I know it'd probably break down on a regular basis, so that may be cost prohibitive.
Renting a trencher is pretty high dollar, especially it's a special type of trencher that they have. I mean, it's a normal trencher with a 8-foot radius on the wheel, but they have their rock cutting teeth backwards to where basically once you cut it, it refills in on itself. That other trenchers will basically, you'd have to refill the whole trench by hand. Then if we were to trenching our property, probably wouldn't be a big deal, but once it starts coming to individual property owners, we would have to make sure that we avoided septic tanks, lateral lines, electrical, cable. So that's when that would start really getting to be a hard call to make when you're on private property, trenching for that.
So when we contract this out, they take care of any damage they might do underneath the ground?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
This answers the question right
There's
there.
a lot to be said for not having that liability on the city. Yeah. Good, really good. I had never thought of that. That's a great point. Yeah. Anything else? Thank you again for all that you're doing. Mayor's Project Communication Report, City Sign. I hope that TxDOT doesn't watch this. So, because here's the deal. 2252 project, TxDOT is going to be expanding 2252. Y'all know about that. Y'all know that they're going to be, and if you look at the maps, you see there's going to be a loon basically right where our sign is. They have purchased the land from us, and so we're living on borrowed time with our sign. They told us it needs to be gone as of, I'm not going to say the date, but it was earlier than today. But I'm kind of betting that they're kind of busy and there's a lot of other stuff going on, and we're going to leave it there for the time being, because the issue is, do we just put it back on our property farther back? We don't know how the line of sight will be and how the usefulness of it sitting there will be until we see a little bit more about what they're doing. And so I'm deliberately betting that they won't just go out there in the middle of the night with a backhoe and knock the thing over, but yeah, they might, but they don't usually do things like that. And so we're going to put a yellow sticky on it that says, please call this number. It'll be my cell number. Please call this before you do anything. Yeah, put a historic, tell them we found some Indian arrows underneath it, maybe. But nonetheless, everybody that drives a city vehicle or drives around the city that's on staff knows that if they see any activity in that vicinity at all, to holler at us right away, because then we will pull the thing down. And so now you're a part of the team, council. If you see anything going on out there, you don't see me or Eric or Brian or Steven out there at the sign, you see somebody else out there at the sign, get on the phone right away and call us, please. That's obviously a Band-Aid, because the real thing is we got to figure out what to do. And when we get a little bit farther along with what they're doing, we're gonna determine if we can just move the sign back. Now, that said, we all know that that sign is wonderful for people that go that way, but not everybody goes that way. So the other issue is, what else can we do? Ms. Kane and I were surfing around trying to find out city sign companies and options and everything else, and we stumbled on something that we're in the middle of working on, and she's in the middle of working on right now. So I'd like her to tell you a little bit about it.
There's a company called CEIS, and they're community educational service signs. They're electronic signs.
They're very nice signs, actually.
Very nice signs. We do know that the city of Leon Valley has one of these signs. We can put our community information on a sign. You share time on the sign with Amber Alerts, weather alerts, things of that nature. But also, what supports predominantly, because these are not cheap signs, these are expensive signs. What really supports the sign is the time that businesses can advertise on these signs. We're doing a little bit more research on it. They are going to do some research about us, because they need to make sure that it's feasible to do such here, if that's the decision that council or the direction council wants to go. I want to get, quite a bit more information. What other cities are using these signs? It took me a little while to get in touch, because I sent them an email and I didn't get a response, so I called, and my call let them know that their email system was not working correctly. So anyway, I'm in conversation with them. We'll see what other information I find out, but this could possibly be an option. It'd be no cost to the city. Zero cost, zero maintenance.
And I've seen a few of these, and they're good-looking signs. They are not trash.
They're very nice
masonry
looking.
And electronic, and they're about as nice as you could make an electronic sign, frankly. But there's a lot of hurdles to go through.
Yeah.
And clearly, no decisions will be made without you all making a decision. But just want to give you a heads up that we're looking at that, because the alternative is we don't do that kind of thing, and we do it, autonomously, and we're talking a lot of money to have a sign. The thing about it is, we do have evidence that having a sign helps. It really does. So now there's development that'll happen at the corner of 2252 and 3009, and that is obviously a great place, because a lot of people, but still not everybody, goes through that intersection. But there's a few other options, a few other locations that we're looking at and asking about. But we'll keep you posted, but we wanted you to know two things. One, if you see anybody out there messing with our sign, holler, and the other is we're looking at other options.
Stephen has assured me that he will be able to mobilize within 5 minutes.
In the dead of night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on that?
I appreciate that, because that is my sign. Didn't I buy that from you?
Anything else over here? Okay. And I actually asked you already about the video updates. That's been a lot of communication with y'all. Did a video for the city, and frankly, I debated doing more videos, but I felt that it was kind of redundant with all the other information. So instead, what we've done communication-wise is stayed on top of our website. And our admin team have done a great job of making sure that our website is, in my words, the place to get all information COVID. So, you want to know what's going on with the state, what's going on with the county, what's going on with our city, what's going on nationally. You go to that site and you can get that information. So that's what we've been doing, and even putting it on our sign saying, go to our website if you want information. Any comments or questions on communication to our citizens and communication to y'all? Okay. Next is citizen contact report. I have a few of these I want to tell you about. We had a citizen that I ended up getting a call from and talking to for a while, but a couple that had an issue with a animal in their backyard area, and it was after hours, and they were trying to get a hold of animal services, and it didn't go well. And it wasn't anything to do with animal services, but it didn't go well. And eventually it was sorted out, and eventually we did get animal services to respond, but not before they had to make a lot of phone calls, and they were understandably upset, but they were also very kind by the time I was done talking to them. But I asked our city administrator to tell you what she found, because of course we wanted to know why this happened the way it happened with our answering service. So every once in a while, I don't know if you know, but every once in a while somebody will call the answering service and not get a good answer. Or they don't answer, or they give the wrong answer. And so we try to stay on this. Luckily, the calls are recorded. And when there's an issue, and if you ever hear of any issues like this, please let us know, because we need to keep them on course, because they represent us when they're answering the phone. So if you would tell council about your conversation.
The citizen called the after-hours answering service, and it was close to about 11 o'clock at night. And the question they asked the answering service, is this animal control? I spoke with the supervisor at the answering service, and she listened to the call, and they asked, is this animal control? And the person that answered said no, and the party hung up. I have expressed to the answering service supervisor that any call that comes in for the city of Garden Ridge, it doesn't matter what it is, take the report, pass it on to the contacts that are on our list, and our contacts will make the decision who needs to be notified so that nothing goes unaddressed.
Yeah, they were worried about a rabid animal. It was 11 o'clock at night, and they also had a conversation with another operator, and then they ended up calling the county, they called the sheriff, they tried calling county animal services. They made a lot of phone calls that they didn't need to make. So this was a real issue, and we hope we have it resolved, but I can tell you that in my experience since I've been the mayor, this is about, the fourth time that this kind of thing has happened. So we have to stay on them, and so if you ever hear anything like that, because it's a direct reflection on our city, and
Right.
what will happen is the people will say, the city's a bunch of idiots and they can't answer their phones and they're not here for us and all that, and we need to know so we can fix it right away. Okay. Comments or questions on that? Was it rabid? No. Well, it was missing by the time they actually.
Yeah, they never
got out.
found it. It was never found.
Another one is the one that I thought was before. Yeah, they're both laughing at me. Okay, so if you may have gotten some phone calls or emails if you finally got into your email about the mail and issues with the mail in the city. This is a very difficult proposition because a lot of the people that are complaining about not getting mail, they're not getting mail the day they expect to get mail, and then they get it a couple days later and they don't tell anybody they got it. So that complaint is kind of still out there in the social media sphere. Now there have been a few people that have had legitimate issues with their mail. I will tell you that we have had no reported, and we tell people they need to report it. And then we had one, but it was, trying to remember, I don't have it in front of me. Mail theft. Yeah, and he's not on mic, so I need to repeat what he said. They reported it as stolen, but then they said they had cameras and there was no evidence that it was stolen. So it was it was a little bit convoluted, so it was difficult to do anything about that. Now, if you're reading some of the social media stuff, or you've gotten anybody that's contacted you, also a few people are alleging that the mail carriers are stealing the mail. And again, they're basing this on one of these kind of emails. A few people, at least a few people up on the dais are aware of these emails, but I don't know if everybody is, and I thought it would be instructive to show you what this email looks like. You get this email, it's sent to you, and it says, coming to your mailbox soon. And it gives a scanned look of the mail that's coming to you. Now, most people, when they get this email, that day, I get this in the morning, and that day, I get what they put on there, but not always, okay? Happens a lot, and frankly, they're almost victims of their own success because they say, this is coming soon, and then boom, you get it that day. But now look at the next slide where we highlighted a few things on this. Notice in two places, it says, arriving soon, coming to your mailbox soon. It doesn't say you're gonna get it today. But because people get this email and then they get it today, they start thinking that means they're going to get it today, when it doesn't necessarily work that way. Next slide. So, and then there's a second page, or more pages if you get a lot of email, or a lot of mail, excuse me. But on the second page, it also says packages. It says arriving today, and again, same deal, arriving soon. And then down the bottom, it's got a message that's in fine print. It's not that fine, but it's fine enough that apparently nobody's reading it. Or I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of the people that are complaining aren't reading it. And it says, mail may arrive several days after you receive this notification. Please allow up to a week before reporting missing mail. I can tell you that at least half a dozen people have either written on social media or complained to somebody up here about not getting mail after a couple of days. Now, I am not diminishing the problem of somebody never getting their mail or going through a hardship because they are not getting something they need, or because somebody stole something and then now they have a problem with, theft or money theft or identity theft or whatever it is. I'm not diminishing any of those, but here's the problem. We got people that are complaining when they're not getting the mail the day they get this. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that have complained about this. And you can go on social media, you can read these people complaining about this. That obscures the few real problems, right? So I talked to somebody that had a real problem, okay? And they have gone through the steps to report it, to talk to the people in the postal system, the inspector, there's a consumer advocate in the postal department, and then there's... We'll stop for, okay. So as I was saying, this person had been through all the wickets, had talked to advocates, had talked to the postal inspector, and they were very gracious, actually, when they reported this to me, and we talked about this for quite a while, because they didn't say, you need to do something about this, and what is the city doing about this? Because she actually said, I get that it's the Postal Service and it's not the city. And her question to me actually was, what do you think I can do next? It was a really rational, legitimate question to ask. And what I said was, if you mentioned that you had some other people that may have had some issues. If you have any of those people, please tell them if they have reports that they need to let us know here, because what I personally will do is help them connect to Chip Roy's office, because we need to say, if there's a problem, there's a problem. But everybody understand that one event does not make a trend. And it's really difficult to say that there's a trend if there's just one event. So if anybody comes to you with an actual problem that they have been contacting the post office, they have, and I didn't want to show you, but she had the documentation, she sent it to me. I will gather all that stuff, and I will be more than happy to call Chip Roy's office, talk to the congressman's staff, say you need to look into this, right? Doesn't mean it's magic, it doesn't mean something's going to happen right away, but we need to go on the radar with that. But calling them about one instance and then a bunch of people that it takes 3 days to get their mail is not the way to go. So I'm asking for you all to put your feelers out there and tell people if they have legitimate problems, they need to go through the wickets to have this stuff filed, because I guarantee you, if they say they have a problem and they haven't done any of that, and we tell the congressman's office, you know what the congressman's office is going to say. Did they file this? No. Well, they need to file it, right? So we need to help them get to the point where nothing's being done, and then we can push somebody to try to get deeper into this. Does that all make sense? Okay. Does anybody have any experience or anything to add to this, starting on the left side?
Not to add to it, thank you.
Okay. Sir?
My wife keeps track of this service that they provide every day. Occasionally, our mail will end up in somebody else's box and then come back to us via them or via the post office. So it does stretch it on several days. Not everything shows up the same day that they say it's going to, but it always shows up. Second of all, the customer service portion of the post office is the post office that's located on Paramvital Road, not the one that we go pick up stuff. They're useless. So if you want the phone number, that maybe you have to call, or you can pass it on to somebody that's really concerned.
Could you send that to me? Because if
Sure.
anybody ever contacts me, I'll give them that number too.
Yeah.
And it might be the number that she gave to me, but I don't know, so if you
Okay.
would, please send it to me.
All right. Yeah, that's the best place to work. That's where this woman was working that I talked to last year, maybe, when I was working with them. And she may not, probably is not even.
Well, I'll do you one better. This woman that went through lots of wickets ended up talking to somebody in El Paso.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
But you know how effective it is to talk to anybody at the post office.
Oh, yeah.
And Chip Roy is probably the best
Yeah.
person to start going
Yeah,
to.
and that's why I told her that we would, and I told her also that any progress she gets along the way to let me know as well. So I'll be glad to pass this stuff on, but one complaint, like I said, is not a trend. Ma'am? Sir? Okay. Census. So and I mentioned this in a video, but we had a problem, we had an issue where some people were going on and they saw that when they put in their code, it said they lived in San Antonio. And they got nervous and they said, well, we don't want to be counted in San Antonio. We want to be counted, obviously, in Garden Ridge. And we started asking the questions, and I think Nancy spent a couple hours on the phone until we figured out that all these people were a bunch of temporary employees, and none of them really knew what they were talking about anyway. And so then I said, okay, Uncle, let me go in another direction. And I went to Donna Campbell's office, and I said, do y'all have somebody that we can contact in the Census Bureau to find out if it's a problem? Now, I think I even told you, but so everybody here knows, if you haven't done the census yet, when you go in there, you can say, no, that's not my address when you put in your code. And then you can put in your address and put in Garden Ridge and it'll accept it. So you can kind of hand mash it to Garden Ridge. But they promise us that's not necessary because it's not done by zip code and what the city resolves to on the zip code. It's done by your street. It's actually done by your real location. At least that's what they tell us. Now, how do I know that? Because when I went to Campbell's office, they contacted the census folks. They got a direct quote from the census folks. Actually, they didn't contact. They then contacted Chip Roy's office, and then Chip Roy's office gave them a contact that they in Campbell's office talked to, and then they gave me the direct typed quote back that said that this is not an issue. So, that said, if you have friends, neighbors, constituents that are worried that they're going to be counted in San Antonio, we have, a government official's word that it's not going to be a problem. But the other thing, just because for idle curiosity, I don't know if you know, but you can go online and you can see how every city in the nation and every county in the nation is doing percentage-wise. It doesn't give you a number of people or respondents, but it does give you a percentage. And this is cool. Garden Ridge is number 2 in Texas for all the cities in Texas, number 2 for responding. Yeah, Garden Ridge is at, and this is as of this afternoon, Garden Ridge is at 83%. And a couple hundred-person town outside of Kyle by the name of Mountain City, I didn't even know they existed, they're number 1 at 84.2. And I've been watching this, and they just keep the gap. They're keeping the gap on us. So they're keeping us, and we were number 1 a few weeks ago for just a few days, but Mountain City has been working hard on this. But 83% is what we've done. Now, so out of the nation, you can look this up, and it's really easy to look up. Today, we're 107 ranked city in the nation. Anybody want to venture a guess how many cities are on that list? Over 20,000. So, yeah, and I'm talking about the nation. Over 20,000 cities, and we're in the top 100. Yeah, a few days ago, we were 90-something. So we're hovering right around 90 to 100. So, I said idle curiosity, but it's kind of cool that our residents really care, and they're really doing the census. And so please pass on to everybody that you get to talk to that they're doing great, and we need to find out where that other 17% is, and we'll see how we're doing. But that's the census issue and some contact that I've had with quite a few citizens that have called and written to me about it.
Mayor, may I ask a question, please?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're saying that Donna Campbell's office obtained a statement saying, don't worry about it? Because I did run into that problem, and I believe we discussed it going in and saying you have the option of changing.
You can change it, but
No, I cannot.
I did. I don't know why you couldn't.
Well,
I actually did change, and I've talked to a few people that have.
Okay, I
Have you done it? Have you finished?
Yeah,
Have you
yes,
completed?
I said, is this your correct address? I said, no. So, yes or no.
Uh-huh.
So go to no, and they said, well, is this the address on your card with your code? I said, yes. They said, well, then you're in Garden
See,
Ridge. And I
that's-
said, okay, so I called and I spoke to a human being, and they said, oh, it was GeoTrack, trust us.
Yeah. The talking that number didn't help, as
Right.
as Ms. Kane can attest to. But I think I might have said no twice and then put my address in there, and it let me put in Garden
Just
Ridge.
keep saying no.
Yeah, I think
Easy.
so. I can't remember exactly what I did, but I
have
did put
tried.
Garden Ridge,
I
and it
have
says
tried
Garden
and
Ridge on mine.
spoken to.
But again, a actual census official, not a part-time or, a seasonal employee for the census, but
Right.
a real census official is who they talk to guarantee that it's done by where you actually live, not by what it says your city is. Yeah, and this whole city thing is, I don't know. It's frustrating. It's frustrating that even we have to send out utility bills that say San Antonio on them. We've been through that too, and it's really frustrating. But it is what it is right now, at least.
This census official works for the post office.
Yeah.
Well, let me go back on the post office. I went in, I had to go.
No, we're done with the post office.
No, I have to go back in on the post office. I went into the post office with mask and gloves on. All the citizens, we're distancing and all that. So I get up at the counter, and this is shirts, and the two guys up there are not wearing masks. And they've got a little polycarbonate shield, like this wide, and then the package gap this big. And I had a package to send, and I said, how come you guys aren't wearing masks? He said, oh, well, they gave us a shot. And, and I said,
Okay, we need to move on, but that probably was worth a story for some comic relief.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so for the census, any other comments or questions for census? Census. Okay. Moving on to item number 3, C3, is text dot coordination. I've been getting a smattering of feedback on 3009, and it's very clear that some people love the fact that the speed limit went down, and some people hate that the speed limit went down, and then some people don't like that the speed limit went up at the intersection, and some people love the fact. I mean, I actually was congratulated. Thanks for raising the speed limit at 3009 2252 intersection. I felt a little guilty about that, and I had to say, no, actually, that's not what we wanted. But I explained to him why, and remember, it's because there were too many changes in the speed limit, so that's the way it had to go. But nonetheless, people are paying attention. I had somebody, though, that just in the last week said, so did the speed limit change on 3009? The person is a friend of mine, so I laughed at him a lot. But that's it for item number 13, the updates. Next up is future agenda items. Starting on the right side, are there any agenda items you would like to see on the next? No. Okay. Next up is citizens' comment period. Item number 15. You don't have to have signed up for this. Stay away from people when you walk up there. There's enough room to go around in a circle. You got 2 minutes, and all the other rules apply. It looks like the circuitous route is being taken by Mr. Kniper. Also, when you're done, we're going to have a sign-up sheet over at the table, so you don't have to go to where the secretary and the city secretary are. You have the floor, sir.
Ken Kniper, 8891 Chaintal Road. Regarding what Mr. Overman said earlier this evening, if you want to find that little stretch of street in New Braunfels, it's off of 46. You see the Schertz Bank sign right after you get across the Guadalupe River. Turn left, and it's a few houses, but it's between the Schertz Bank and the Latter-day Saints Church on that side of the street. Those houses are beautiful. We've gone by there twice, just taking a Sunday drive because I get bored sitting at home and I can't drive the CP car during the week, so I go out and take longer trips. But I will tell you, it was a pleasure going out today in the CP car and watching people walk. We drove far enough away from people, and we drove by and we said hi. They said hi back, and we just continued our ride. We didn't stop and talk to anybody. We did have masks with us in case somebody did flag us down and had a question. And I'm glad we can get back out. There are only a few couples that do drive. Some are out of town. We changed our day from a Thursday because the people that drive on Friday said, hey, I can't go out now because it's the only day I can, and everything. Their volunteer part-time, it got given up because the COVID. So it's been nice that we can get out. He was happy. We're happy. We got to go out today. They'll get to go out on Friday, and it's a super idea. Thank you, Chief, very much. We appreciate it. And if you go by these houses, you'll look at them. They're small, yes, the lots are small, but people can take care of their lots. I know of one couple in their 80s that are trying to get out of their home because it's too big. So this is something we do need in Garden Ridge. It's something smaller for us that are getting older, and I'm getting to be that age. And as far as Richard Holloway, I'll tell you what, that's the reason why he's young, is he's active.
Okay, sir, thank you. Your time's up. Any other citizen? We do have a citizen, nothing else. Okay, closing out item 15, going to item 16. Reports, comments from mayor and city council members, starting over on the right side. Anything on this? Limited to what's on here. Ma'am, sir, sir, ma'am. I have something. Garden Ridge Women's Club gave a couple of donations just in the last week to the library and to Animal Services to support them. And I just want to thank them publicly because in the middle of everything that's going on, they're still supporting the city, they're still supporting the library and Animal Services. And please, when you see somebody in that women's club, tell them that we really appreciate that they are still putting these activities as priorities in their club. So, all right, moving on to item number 17. We're going to go into an executive session. Recess open meeting, reconvene executive session pursuant Texas Government Code 551071, consultation with attorney. Number one, to seek legal advice in connection with deliberating purchase, lease, exchange, or value of real property regarding related negotiations for city building projects, utility projects. And we're going to ask the engineer to stick around for that one. And then the second one is to seek legal advice regarding requirements for Comal County Emergency Services and authority to contract for such services through an interlocal agreement. We are going to do this in here so we can maintain social distancing. We can't do it back there. We will take a break. We will clear the room. We're going to put something up on the windows there so nobody can read your lips. And the staff is cleared off, other than a few select staff members. The foyer ante-room will still be open if you want to come back and watch us adjourn. But otherwise, we're gonna close this thing off. Brian, how much time, or Councilman Lanzi, how much time you want? 10 minutes? 8 minutes? Okay, right out, straight up 9 o'clock, we reconvene. We are recessed. Okay, mic on, and we are reconvening at 9:46 p.m. Number 18 is business item, city council reconvening regular session, and may recall any item posted for executive session for action necessary. Council, do you have any action you want to take from the executive session? No. Looks like all say no, so no action. Number 19 is adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Place 5 with a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Place 2 with a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are unanimous, and we are adjourned at 9:47. I want you to know it takes a lot of work to